Yo, happy Father's Day, everyone. What do we all think of the new intro, huh? Fancy. Anyway, how are you all doing? Hope we're well. As always, your boy's underprepared because I've been so busy with the mangrove monitor build, which is now done. Video out Wednesday. So who have we got? Mike did win, but hello Mike, hello Longfield, hello Ben. I can't say it, even though I forgot. Bomb. Hello, Tree. How are we doing? Amy's excited for this one. Fellow jobensis keeper. How are we all doing? How are we all doing? Let me make sure I'm not missing anyone. You're all talking amongst yourself. It's lovely. Little community that we're building here. What's good? Reptiles and research in the building. How are you doing? Hello, Mike. Hello, Mike. Greetings to the fellowship. Dan is here. How are we all doing? What's good, Touch? Hello, and oh God, I need a new laptop. Hello, Andrew. How are we doing? 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 How are we doing, Daniel? Sat down, ordered KFC, sitting through the full podcast. This is it. Everyone sit down. What's good, Daniel? How are we doing? Awesome intro. Thank you very much. What's good, Logan? He's here for the Jobies. He's here. Serpentine's here for the Jobies. Everyone's here for the Jobies. Right, before we get into the Jobies, even though Scottish people, that is a word for them to have poo-poo, we've obviously got to do the standard shout out to the Bug Factory. Everyone in the UK and the US, if you want to sustainably grow mealworms, then check out the Bug Factory. Good guys and girls over there. They really helped me out. I had a delivery from them recently, the cheapest live food I found online in the UK. I've had a delivery from them recently, and it was scorching in the UK for those people who are here that know. And I didn't have a single dead bug, which is always nice. So go and check them out. Link in description. I don't know if it's still running, but use Pools-Monitors-5 for a 5% discount on your first order of live food, and they're already the cheapest. So make the most of it. If it's not working anymore, I apologize. If not, make the most of it. And then finally, to the last sponsor of the podcast, you guys. Thank you very much to the Patreon. I love each and every one of you dearly. So thank you everyone for supporting me. If you guys do want to support me a little bit more, the Patreon is there. All tiers have the exact same rewards. We don't discriminate here. I don't want you for your money. I'm very grateful for your time. You'll get entrance into a private Discord where we just talk monitors, and the Patreon sees a lot of things sooner than anywhere else. So we're over into 2 pages now. So appreciate everyone so much for supporting me. It is very, very appreciated. Right, we're going to get back to the chat really quickly, and then we're going to introduce this week's guest. So I can't watch this episode. I already want to join. I had Toad out today. I had to get Toad out for a little bit of promotion today, didn't I? I had to get Toad out. So, but this guy has some of the nicest jobiensis I've ever seen. But we'll get into that in a minute. How are we doing? How are we doing, Gregory? How are we doing? Right, guys, I am going to do my best. Happy Father's Day, everyone. Thank you, Serenity Dragon, stopping in. Happy Father's Day. Appreciate you all being with me. 23 people. What's good? I was about to say, hit the like button. So, anyway, I'm going to try my best to keep my eye on the chat, but I can't promise you anything because I don't actually know today's guest. Normally, I actually know them. We've only been speaking for maybe a week, but we'll get into that. So I'm going to try to not ignore you guys, but I'm also going to ignore you guys. This week on the Captain Raptors podcast, we have Skye from Hail the Scales.
What is up, dude?
How you doing, man? You all right?
Yes, man. Happy Father's Day. Good to see you.
Happy Father's Day to you too. Yeah, it's good. How long was it? A week ago, 2 weeks ago, we started speaking?
Yeah, well, whenever I think the first hit you up was like right after you went on the Animal at Home podcast. But yeah, we started like consecutively talking like the past 2 weeks, shooting videos and everything back and forth and stuff.
It was kind of mad because you reached out to me, and I'd just discovered your YouTube channel like within the same couple of days. So I was like, I recognize this name. And then I was like, oh, God, yeah, it is you. And then obviously we've been shooting ideas backwards and forwards. And I was like, why don't you just come on the podcast and we can just
Yeah. That's perfect too, because no one ever wants to. You're an Indicus guy, so
Yeah.
there's not many people that are just honed in on this, and I can't really sit here and talk a various variety of monitors with people. I'm keyed in purely on jobensis, so it's nice to actually have someone that's ready to freaking dive deep into these things and that can give me some rebuttals. And we've already had that, and it's like we keep saying it back and forth, you know, save it for the pod, so we can dive deep into this stuff. But yeah, man, I'm here for the jobies.
Just quickly then, if you'd like to introduce yourself and what you keep, and then I have some quick fire questions, and then we're going to get straight into the podcast.
Okay. So yeah, I'm Skye from Hail the Scales. I've been a reptile person my whole life. Sure, my upbringing's just like everyone, you know, Jurassic Park kid from the 90s, Steve Irwin kid, loved snakes, loved monitor lizards, anything reptile, bugs, amphibians. I've had the nickname coined by my grandparents and my parents, from a little kid as Bugsy or Skybug, because I was always flipping over every rock and stick in the yard or literally anywhere we went, and I was picking up roly-polies and any lizard and salamander I could find. So that obviously just carried on. Once I got a house with my current wife, we had some room and had some space, started just building a reptile collection, went a little mad for a little while, and then decided I needed to hone in on something that I really loved and not just keep a bunch of random stuff, because it would just seem like I was paying vet bills to, you know, take in people's stuff as like rescues. And I was just basically being that reptile guy that everyone knows. So they're tossing all their crap on me. So I was like, let me do this. So I'm keeping something I love and I'm doing something passionate. And I've always had a thing for dinosaurs and monitor lizards. And the first time I saw a peach throat monitor was like, you can compare it to like a crackhead doing crack for the first time. It's just like something goes off and now you're sucked in for the rest of your life. And I got lucky enough to get my girl Blaze. She was a sub-adult female when I got her, but she was sold to me as a male. So for the first 2 years of having her, you know, I thought she was a male.
She is massive though, isn't she? I'll see if I can bring her up quickly. She's massive.
She is very massive. She's 4 foot, and she has a very girthy tail base and everything. And herself is just very girthy and muscular. So I never questioned it. And it was also my first real monitor experience, you know, keeping them for a long time and being able to be one-on-one with them. So I was just taking the word of the guy. And once she went through her first cycle is when I realized, you know, I started sending some videos to my quote unquote mentor, Mike's Monitors, you know, the only guy that's been able to give me some good tips and keys for these jobensis out here. And he's like, yeah, bro, that's 100% a female, brother. And I was like, holy shit, man. Well, here we go. Time to reverse this project and start adding some males into the ratio, because I've been keyed on just getting a bunch of females and raise ups and keeping what I think is females. So basically just fell in love with her the second I got her, and it's just been an obsession since then. I'm sure you know how it is with your mangroves, and obviously with toad you want to get more. So
so before we get too deep down that line, then we've got the quick fire questions, and we will be getting into the grow tent at some point. So
yes.
Right, quick fire questions, just some of the one-word answers.
I've been catching up on your pod, so I've seen how your layout goes. So I came ready to go, man. I'm prepared.
They're all the same, other than the one that Fee changes, and Fee has changed one specifically for you. So
sweet. I'm special.
You're special. Snakes or lizards?
Lizards.
Money or time?
Time, baby. I need it more every day.
Don't we all? Mentally strong or physically strong?
Mentally.
Wild caught good, wild caught bad?
Wouldn't be here without wild caught. Wild caught good.
Pro snake rack, no snake rack?
No snake rack. Use it for your fresh hatchlings.
Arid species or tropical species?
Tropical.
This is the Fee question. American croc or American alligator?
American croc all day.
All day. Big reptiles, small reptiles?
Small.
Big monitors, dwarf monitors?
What would you classify our Indicus as?
Technically, they're medium, but I would class them as big because they aren't dwarf.
They get 4 feet long. I mean,
yeah, I would say Indicus complex is a big monitor, yeah.
I'm going big.
Okay. Instagram famous or YouTube famous?
Fuck the fame. Sorry. I'm good on either of it, but give me that YouTube money.
YouTube AdSense, baby.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about the shoes. Pro Crocs, no Crocs.
Dude, I just took my Crocs off. Damn it. Crocs
Yeah,
all day, baby.
I haven't got mine on, sadly.
I
But
just
yeah,
took them
Crocs
off.
all day. Feisty or tame?
Feisty.
Wild types or morphs?
All wild types. Only wild types.
Now we have a new question, which is the last question. You'll be the first person to be asked it. Worst experience with crickets?
Oh, shit. So I had one that was like probably a bucket that started out as 500 and a larger cricket keeper. And I fed off the majority of them. And obviously, you know how we get so busy and I have ADHD. I had it to where they were like almost all dead. So I put them outside my reptile room. And that's like outside that in the weather, basically. Came home after work after it rained and it's baking in the sun all day. I could literally smell that thing across my backyard. I was dumping it out. The water's splashing on me. I was gagging. And my dogs are running up trying to drink and lick the water. It was a freaking disaster.
Nice.
So I freaking hate crickets. But yeah, that one was memorable. I think about that day. I'm just like, don't ever do that again. Take those damn things to the trash can immediately. Do never lay them outside. You're gonna forget.
I in my old house was only a 1-bed flat, and I'd got some crickets for, I think it was for my peach throat, because I know fresh imports like crickets. So I got some crickets because I don't feed crickets because fuck crickets. And one lone male got out and got into the drywall, like a stud wall. And it was and it was in our bedroom because it was just like a little 1-bed bedsit, and it was chirping and chirping and chirping, and went on for weeks. And it's at the point it was like 3 a.m. in the morning. I went to my van, I got like a pad saw, cut a hole in the wall, got like some aftershave deodorant, and I was spraying this deodorant in the wall to try and kill this cricket at like 3 a.m. And then like 3 days passed and it hadn't chirped, and I was like, "You little fucker, I got you." Yeah. And then after like the 4th day, it was like chirp. Chirp. I was like, and I've had them once since, which was here when I got the fresh import Indicus, because they were going crazy for the crickets, and one got in behind the door frame and we couldn't get it out. So never again. Like, I'd rather my animals starve and die than have to buy crickets again.
See, I'm lucky enough to where we have a crap ton of wild geckos and invasive Mediterranean geckos, and I have a couple quote unquote pet 5-line skinks and brown anoles that live out in the monitor shed and in the back porch. So anything that gets loose cricket wise, those things are freaking whacked that night. Oh yeah. Like I have a couple videos where I've tong feed some of the crickets some of the brown anoles and some of the skinks that come into the room. It's freaking awesome, man. Just totally wild. Just coming in there looking for a treat.
I want, when I eventually own a place, I want some wild tokays in my reptile room.
Yeah, man, cleanup crew.
Just to run crazy. But you've got some love in the chat. Serenity has said, Skye is awesome. Been keeping up with him for the past year or so.
Hey, thank you.
And Amy found Skye's channel, who's a fellow peach throat keeper. Found Skye's channel shortly after getting my jobensis. His peach throat setups are awesome.
Thank you for the love, Amy. Appreciate it.
So let's just start at the start then, because obviously you said you started with Blaze and then you ended up getting a couple more. How many peach throats have you got at the moment? 5
currently right now.
Do you know yours?
My guesstimated ratio off of what we're looking at, I'd say I'm 90% solid with the guess, and I'd say it is 2 males, 3 females. So we're looking pretty good on the ratio.
And you're raising them all up separately, yeah?
Yep. The 2 that I had together for a while had came in, I think I got them November of last year, and they were very, very, not only were they freshly just got here imported wise, but they were fresh little hatchling babies. I mean, still basically solid black with just like the little yellow polka dots on them, very tiny. So I kept them together for a couple months just because they had no issues being together. They were really friendly. I know people that have followed my Instagram saw like a month or 2 ago is when they really started to show the defensive behavior. I keep multiple basking spots, and I made it a real point to keep 2 or 3 basking spots in that enclosure with those two. And I would always put 2 food bowls in there. But no matter what, if one went to one food bowl, the other one would just follow it over there. And sorry, if you can hear beeping, this freaking new incubator I just got is freaking turning the eggs.
You're fine, man. It's fine.
But once I noticed that, the male had actually got a hold of the younger female and bit her foot to where it had a pretty good wound on it. So I was like, all right, that's the last straw. Separated them, let her heal up in a little quarantine pen. And then now they're all 100% separated. 2 are in tents, and then the 3 are in those custom builds that I have, which I didn't get the chance to do. The stuff had been kind of chatting back and forth about, trying out testing different setups for them with the substrate and the water and everything. But I bought all materials for it this weekend. Just no time to freaking break it all down, mix it all up, and get in there. So,
because your Jobies, the video you've sent me recently, they seem relatively, I don't want to say social, forgetting Blaze, let's go for these.
Yeah, the youngers. Yeah, the youngers.
Yeah. They seem relatively social.
Yes.
Because Toad in her enclosure is a psychopath, and she's going to get an upgrade tomorrow or the day after. She's going to go into a 6x3x3. Tomorrow, like I say, tomorrow or the day after. I ran out of time today, and I'm hoping the bigger enclosure with a bit more area. I'm still going to cramp it out with sticks, but I'm hoping the bigger enclosure, a bit more area, might enable her to just calm down a little bit. I'm not in a rush to do it, but so what size? What's roughly the size of your baby's enclosures dimensions?
So I have 2 that are a year. They're roughly like a year and 7 months old ish.
That's probably not the same age as Toad, to be fair.
Okay, because that was I kind of just skipped over that question because I was meaning to ask it when you started to bring her up. How long do you think she is? Would you say she's about 26, 28 inches?
Yeah, she's probably about 26.
Tip to tip.
Yeah, she's probably closer to 26 than she is 28.
Okay, so because the video that you had I think you either posted on your story of the update about us doing the video today, she looks the exact same size of the male Teary that I was sending you yesterday, where I was like laying down on the ground and had him coming out. He looks the same size as her, and I have him in the 5 foot tall, 4 foot long, 2 foot deep tent, which I wish it was another foot or 2 deeper, but I'm just limited on the space I have right now. But putting him into that, it is basically exactly what you just said. Once he got into that, he was really like flighty to come out of the cage. Like as soon as I would open his door, he would come running out onto my arm, onto my shoulder, and then he wanted to explore the room. He was over the enclosure that he was in before putting him into the tent. And since putting him into that tent, he's done exactly what you said. Now that he has that room to not exactly like run away, but feel like he can get a couple feet away from me and then observe me, with knowing that he has that security, dude, that has turned his confidence up 5 notches. I was just showing the wife today. We were out there cleaning up a little bit because I was going to try to do the podcast out there, and I had his door open. He was jumping on me, jumping off of me, jumping off of me again. Like he's so curious. It's pretty insane. His confidence is boosted so much. But that's how Blaze is. She'll kind of get into her moods where she's not scared, so she'll come like suss me out, crawl up me a little bit, and I am seeing those tendencies start with him. So I would agree with you. Giving her that space is going to give her that confidence of being able to get away from you, but not get away from you to where she can still investigate you. And I also did notice that giving them that like a foot or so above your head is super key, because they love being able to like look down on you and feel that safety and comfort of being up high.
Yeah, the enclosure she's going to go into is only 3 foot tall, but it's 3 foot off the floor. So it's effectively 3 to 6 foot effectively. And I'm only like 5'8", so she can get up to 6 foot off the floor, but it's only a 3 foot tall enclosure. I will be building her a 6x3, 6 long, 3 deep, 6 tall. Maybe by the end of the year if plans go well. But yeah, like Mango's just got in that big Viv today, and I was in there with my phone like 6 to 10 inches from her face, and normally Mango's just like bam, she just charges me. She didn't care. She had no care in the world, and it's probably a combination of being in the bigger enclosure, because her brain's so stimulated, she wasn't like, I need to like get this guy out.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully putting her, because I've just upgraded my pair of Indicus that are living together. So they're in Mango's old Viv.
Nice.
And then Toad's going in their old Viv. And then my smaller Mangrove's going to go in Toad's Viv. And then my baby Mangroves are going to go into the smaller Mangrove's Viv. So everyone's getting upgraded.
Doing the shuffle, baby.
Yeah, so everyone's getting upgraded.
Nice.
Probably this week / next week, whenever I get 10 minutes.
Yeah.
but yeah, so Toad in the Viv is a completely... It's like I say, she's a psychopath and she's so fast. She's the fastest animal I've ever worked with. Like, I keep baby Mangroves and they are slow compared to Toad.
Yes.
But the second she comes out the Viv, the second she hits the floor,
different animal.
It's just curiosity, instantly. There's no 5-minute flighty period. It's instantaneous. She's like, oh, long tongue flicks, comes over to me. I can pick her up. Like, she'll try to climb up me or jump away. She doesn't want to be held.
Yeah.
But she doesn't show fear. She's not scared.
Exactly.
And I don't really know how that comes from in the jobensis, because with the Mangroves, they're
complete opposite.
Yeah, they just want to go. Like, they're not interested. They're like, nope. As soon as you hit the ground, because I fence off a bit of my reptile room, which is secure, so I don't have to grab at them if they run off.
Yeah.
And the Mangroves, they don't want nothing to do with you. So for the most part, the Mangroves, I don't touch. Yeah, Michael knows all too well. When he was down at mine in March, I got Toad out. He got him to hold Toad, and she jumped onto his face, like slit his nose open with her claws.
Yeah,
and she's so much bigger now, and he was happy that he came home with like a little. It's not a scar, but like a little peach fuzz scar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't. Do you see that with all of yours? Do you see that curiosity in all of yours, or do you think it's only in a couple of them? Or
no, it's definitely in all of them. The flightiest one I have, which is one of the younger presumed females, that is also like 1.5 years oldish. She's a little bit more flighty, but it's the flighty period. It's just a couple more seconds longer before she like snaps out of it and goes into the like investigation mode or whatever. But I see it all around with them. They're another thing I wanted to ask you, because I just recently had some friends over and they were watching me feed them, and my buddy was like, oh, it seems like they have a short attention span. And I was like, no, it's actually complete opposite of that. They like to test your reaction to their motion so that they know how to make their third and fourth and fifth move. So like, I was trying to explain that to him, and then once he's seen it happen a couple times, he was like, holy shit, like he's actually testing you, and he's trying to act like he's walking away, but meanwhile he knows that you're gonna either pull back or leave it there, not thinking he's gonna come back. So like, if you're going to tongue feed one of your animals, say the animal like comes towards you and he gets like 7-8 inches away from the tongs, and he stops and he looks a little bit wary, and he'll do a quick little 2-inch, 3-inch charge at it, and then back away and completely have his back turned to the prey item. And then he'll like look back at you, give you a side eye, and then look straight forward and do like a half step motion like he's going to walk away, but then completely turn around, do a U-turn, and in the half of a blink of an eye, the thing's back at the tongs. So once you learn that once you read that and move back, and like they start reacting to each motion, you start seeing them learning each motion that you're doing to counter react their motion. And it's just a whole brain game. So I'm like, dude, that is not an attention span thing. That is completely them testing out their environment and like just being investigative, basically. Like, what's going to happen? What are they going to do to my move? Basically, like I see the boldness in it, if that makes any sense. And reel me in and get me back on track if I start to go, because I get derailed so bad.
No, you're fine. I do too. This will be fun. No, the Mango she does the same. So Toad doesn't tongue feed, even out of the Viv. She doesn't tongue feed. I'm hoping to be able to be honest, I don't put in enough hours with her. I very much just throw food in. I leave her. I'm just so busy now, and I am trying to downsize so I can put more time into my indica stuff. And I do want to try and get her to a point where she'll start to tongue feed so I can really build a relationship with her, because I do see that level of curiosity in her that the Mangroves don't have. But Mango, she's just a spirit of her own. Like, I understand what you mean though, because she'll test me and she'll push me and she'll mock charge and she'll sometimes charge and sometimes she bites and sometimes she'll like you say, she tests her boundaries. And Michael and my other friend Matt have fed her before. One of them fed her when she was gravid, maybe both of them, I can't remember. I was like, she won't be her normal self, but you can just see her and she's just like, well, you're not Paul. And she'll still go for the food because she's so food driven. But you can see her almost like
they know.
Yeah, so she's
100%.
like, I need to figure this person out, see the pattern. Because with me, she knows like how I do it. And it is almost like a dance. Like she knows the steps. And if you go off, if she's in an off mood, there's no point. But if she's in the mood to go and I'm not doing what she expects, she gets annoyed at me. And you can tell she gets annoyed because she'll react and she'll whip or she'll charge. Whereas normally if I'm doing things to her like pleasure, she's like, okay, I'll do what you want me to do. But then as soon as I, like say, take the food away or I'm not giving it to her quick enough, then that's when she becomes a bit more of a bitch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're just like you're saying though, like if there's another person doing the action of feeding or in the room or whatever, they'll basically run, even though they know our routine and got their basis down with us, they'll completely restart and do all the same mock charges and tests to see that person's reaction. My buddy Chazzy was just down not long ago, and he was at first I'm like, just let her do her thing, just stay steady with your emotions, be confident with all your emotions, don't do any flinching, because she's going to take that flinching as a sign of weakness, and she's going to try to bully you. And once he realized that, he was able to feed her and have her run it up his leg and whatnot. So they're way more intelligent. I don't know if you listen to a lot of reptile podcasts or not, but there's a couple podcasts out here in America. The one Colubroid and Colubroid Radio or whatever. But Jason Hood was just on talking about. It's a quick point I want to bring up, but people diminish the fact of how smart reptiles actually are, and he put it in a good sense. It's like these reptiles aren't just stupid, dumb things that are breathing and eating. They wouldn't be able to survive in the wild. They wouldn't be able to make it out there if they were just doing that. So we really truly need to give them the credit of how intelligent and how smart they really are, because I'm one that is always fighting for that and saying that, and people look at me dumb sometimes, and then I kind of like give them a face-to-face interaction with an animal, or they come over and see something that a snake does and they're so mind-blown. I'm like, do you kind of see that they're way smarter than you're giving them any credit for? And they're like, wow. And it just opens a lot of people's eyes. I feel like just in my inner circle, the people's eyes that have been opened just in the couple interactions we've had, it's like that needs to be a real big pushing point for a lot of herpetocultures. These things are way more smarter than we give them any sort of credit for.
There's a story that some people know that I tell on here. Have you heard me talk about the story of the time I had a Dorianus?
Maybe. I don't know if I have. I don't want to say I have. It doesn't
so basically, this Dorianus could literally pick locks. So I would just use rubber wedges in the glass doors, and it would put its claw into the glass door and push out the wedge, and then put its claw in the door like this, scratch until its claw hooked the glass door, and then it would pull the door open and get out. And you can't tell me that's not intelligence, because it watched me do things, and then I would come into the room and I'd be like, what are you doing? And it would skulk back off, and I would shut the door, put the wedge in, because at the time I didn't have locks. I went out and brought some fairly quickly, but yeah, it ended up getting out, and I had to set some like humane traps with like a chick and a old-fashioned rope and I would come home. Yeah, the trap would be gone off and the food would be gone, but there'd be no Dorianus, and it was living behind my 8-foot Viv stack for like 4 days, and this was immediately by my front door. So when you come into my front door, this Dorianus would look at you, scarper behind the Vivs, and I was sat like playing the PlayStation one night, and I just heard like click, clop, click, clop. And this was at like 11, 12 o'clock at night. And I like took my headset off, looked down, and there's this 4-foot, not very social Dorianus. I was like, I'm just going to have to grab him. So I like went down, got him, put him back in the Viv. And I was like, no, I can't. I haven't got the capabilities to house this lizard. So I rehomed him. Just because obviously he was, I could stimulate one now, but where I was one, a more inexperienced keeper, and two, I just didn't have the space. I was very like, oh wow, they must be the same as mangroves, but
yeah, they were
huge. Yeah, no, it's just the size; it was the intelligence. Like I think Mango is a very smart lizard, but this Dorianus made Mango look dumb.
I'll have to
for sure.
I'll have to send you a video after this is over because I'm using my phone. But I have videos of Blaze in her old enclosure where it was the 2 sliding doors that interlocked, and she would. I literally had because I was like, "How the frick are you getting out? Are you just sliding through the doors? What are you doing?" And literally the same thing that you're saying. She would see me shut the doors and be like, "Oh, there's a breach right here. Okay."
Yeah.
Slide right through it. It's like, okay, you're way smarter than you look. All right.
That's what Mango's doing at the minute. She's patrolling every inch, and people are like, "Oh wow, she's exploring." I'm like, "No, she's looking for weak points.
She's looking for a weak point. Yeah, any weakness, she's gonna find it."
And she's found the door already because she's managed to get her because there's basically an upright where the shower door closes onto, and I've just got a wedge to lock it. And she gets her claws into it, and she's rattling it already. So I am a bit apprehensive to come home tomorrow.
In the door wide open.
Yeah, I mean, no, my luck, she'd probably find her way into this room off the loft ladder and like corner me into the bloody podcast room just because she hates me that much. But
right, you're not.
They are very smart. They're people, like you say, especially varanids. All reptiles, I 100% agree, but especially varanids, they have that almost bird level intelligence.
Oh yeah,
and you can almost see them figuring stuff out. And like when I put her in that new viv, because a lot of people, I put it on Instagram live. I decided to put her live so we could all sort of watch it together, and I can look back on it then. And people are like, "Oh wow, she's exploring," but I don't think people really comprehend what it is to put an animal in a new enclosure. Because within the week, maybe 2, let's just say 2 weeks, she's going to know every square centimeter of that enclosure.
Yeah.
So if I don't change it, and obviously we can add sticks, we can add leaf litter, we can add this, and we can add that, but it's not the same as putting an animal in something completely new. But it becomes really hard, doesn't it, to completely change things? And how are you finding that and that sort of aspect of keeping?
I feel like what you say, because I've listened to a couple of the pods now and I've heard you say it a couple of times, but just the adding, I know obviously you can't change your whole layout every other month or whatever, because just setting up this tent has been a week process of making sure everything was right and then watching her use it and then dialing things into where she's liking to be at and where she's going to use things most. And I've already added so many more branches because of where I see her using focal points in there that I'm like, okay, well, she needs a notched branch here, or she needs a vinage branch here. Or I feel like it's all about just watching your animal and learning how it's going to use that environment and then updating it based off of that, so that you're not just throwing in a random why am I going blank right now?
Stick or branch.
Yeah, but what people call it when they freaking I'm adding something for I'm sorry. Yes, enrichment. I'm sorry, I'm going blank on a Sunday, but I'm adding enrichment and you just throw in a stick or a leaf
that they won't use.
Yeah, that animal may never use that stick or leaf. Yeah, it might go over and tongue flick it a couple times, but why not study your animal, see where there's a small lacking point or a weak point in your enclosure, and then add accordingly, so that you're not just throwing in. You can still throw in the leaves and the twigs every other week or whatever, because that is going to be something for them to go check out. But look for your weak points and things where you can add, because just in the 2 weeks or so that she's been in that tent, I've slowly just been continuously adding more sticks. And yesterday I changed the lighting up and I've added a couple more branches. And I feel like you just need to study your animals. You got to listen to your animal and add accordingly. You can't just be, oh, this is going to be the best because so-and-so said he adds leaf litter.
Yeah, I agree. It's also fun to experiment. Like in this new viv, I put this big vertical branch in there. It's quite a thin, it's probably that big around for people that can and can't see. Maybe like a Coke can around. It's not a big branch, but it's big enough to hold Mango. And obviously, in my care, she's never had the capability to climb completely vertically. She's had the opportunity to go like horizontally up, but she's never had the chance to go completely vertically. She's got a tree stump in her old viv, which is like 1.5 feet tall. So it's not really climbing vertically. I really liked vertical branches for like my tree monitors and stuff. I think it's incredible because they do use them. So I was like, I wonder if she would use it. And I found this branch And I was like, okay, I'll bring it home, and none of them fit in my van, so I had to like tie the doors together. And
You sent me the message. That was awesome.
It was very sketchy, but thankfully I only had to drive like 10 minutes. But we made it. No one died. So I put this big branch in there, and I came in to like get ready for this pod, and I've just posted this reel. This is the one I've just posted on Instagram, and as I come past, I was like, I need my phone, because she was at the very bottom of the branch looking up, and I was like, she's going to do it. Time by I found my phone, she was halfway up it. I was like, fuck. But she's literally like Mirandaing her way to the top of this branch that's completely vertical, which I guarantee you no one that kept Indicus would say she would have done. Because I know that they're not, they'll climb horizontal and they'll climb up, yeah. But she climbed this little tiny branch straight up to the top with ease, and I was like, I never in my head she was going to do it, but I never thought she would. And I'll be completely honest, I was sat on the toilet making that reel just before this podcast, and I watched it back, and I literally had a couple of tears because I was just so emotional of how like
the gratification too, just knowing like all of those thoughts and assumptions and people telling you no. And that's why I sent you the one DM, and I was like, I'm almost willing to bet you $1,000 right now. No matter what anyone said, she's going to climb up every single inch of that thing, dude.
And she's been everywhere. And also,
when you put up that reel, I was like, thank you, God. Dude. That's so awesome to see. Freaking beautiful.
You'll be happy to know that she's already started to dig the fern up as well. So she's already started.
I forgot about the fern.
Yeah, she's dug. It's got to be a 6-inch hole. She's gone 6 inches down underneath the fern. So it won't be long until either the fern dies or she pulls it out, which is annoying, but it is what it is. I tried.
It looks so good too, is the thing.
I tried. I found that's just from my garden, so I just dug it up on my garden. And yeah, I just completely off on a tangent, but just because I like it. As I was changing around all these vivs and moving substrate from one viv to another, all the grass that I've pulled and put into my pair of mangroves enclosure, I lifted all that up to throw their soil into their new viv, and there was so many isopods, and I was like, wow, like just the simplest little things. I was like, this is really cool. And then I found this rotten stump. It was completely dry, so like not horrible, like a dried out stump, and I was like, this is gonna look sick, and it'd be like isopod kingdom and haven.
Oh yeah.
And I don't treat stuff here in the UK because there's not really anything nasty here other than man-made stuff. And where I get my wood from, I know it's good because it's on private land. So I don't have to worry about like diseases or bugs or anything like that, other than ants, because obviously no one likes ants. So I checked this stump over because normally it's just branches. You haven't got to worry about branches, but this is a hollow stump. So I'm checking it over. Can't see anything on it. I'm like, okay, this looks perfect. And then for some reason, like you get this intuition. My brain was like, just break a bit open. I don't know why I did, and there was a huge like ant's nest right in the middle of this stump. And I was like, thank God I checked that, because normally I just put solid branches in there, so obviously you know there's going to be nothing on it. There might get the odd bug on there, but that's fine. But this was a big, like a 2 foot by 2 foot stump, and it was completely hollow because it was
decimated your cage, bro.
And I know America's obviously a lot different, but here in the UK we've got only a few species, and for me as a layman, we have like black ants, red ants, and then like woodland ants. There's a load of obviously other different species, but red ants are the nasty fuckers, and it was a red ant's nest as well. So I was like, oh my God.
I actually almost had that happen to me, not with the red ants, but in that smaller tent for my male. I was just putting in some wood that my buddy brought me down from North Carolina, and I'd let it bake in the sun for almost a month and a half now. I've rinsed it down and stuff. I also get like a wire grill brush, and I'll kind of just like hit them down to knock any loose, dead, anything, moldy stuff off or whatever. And it was all looking good. Put it in the viv or put it in the tent. And as soon as I went out and I came back to bring some more stuff in, I saw the whole log crawling. I was like, what the hell? No. I grabbed it. It was freaking termites, dude.
Nice.
And long wing termites. I was like, oh my God. I freaking chucked that thing out back into the woods. I was like, get the hell away from my building. I do not need termites, man. That would freaking decimate me.
For sure. Hello, Parker. How are you doing, my friend?
Finally gets
the free Sunday. The man Parker himself.
Got the freaking tree god boss up in here, baby.
Any possibility that they're instinctively starting to dig burrows under plants because a properly grown in plant provides both a visual barrier as well as an entrance to. Yeah, maybe she's got a submerged nest box in this enclosure, so there's just a little hole under like 3 foot of dirt. So I would have thought she would just use that, but for the most part, every time I have put plants in there, she does dig them up. So it's a possible. Do you have like, well, we're going to get into this in a minute, but I was going to say, do you have planted plants? But in your youngsters, you were water bottoms, weren't you?
When I did, because they've only been in those for like a couple months now, but before that, when they had Substrate, they had just fake plants stuck into the ground, like the fake stem stuck into the ground. And I'll give some credit to the question they're asking about. I would say yes to that. Maybe not in a setting of like keeping in captivity, but in the wild, I would definitely say they would use that method because the thicker root systems are going to hold their burrows, so they're not going to have to worry about collapsing. And I'm sure it's the humidity and everything's a lot more stable under a plant and everything not baking in the sun. But when I tried doing the live plants and everything, because I've tried everything with them because I love greenery, and everything live I've ever done has been dug up or trampled to death, or like you're saying, there's a tunnel dug underneath of it, so the whole root system gets torn apart. Goodness, I keep kicking my freaking stand.
Yeah, fine.
But yeah, so I've made the gradual switch over to just buying everything big fake plastic plants. But if anyone watches my video and they're always like, oh, well, your plants are always set up, so they must not get torn up. I literally rearrange my plants and stick them back in their spots every day because they get ripped out and torn apart by the lizards. So there's no not having it happen. I just feel like, obviously, if you have a fake plant, you can rinse off the poop, rinse off the dirt, put it right back up where it was.
So just completely changing gears then. I'm curious on this myself. So you were keeping jobensis on soil, and then you changed to water. This is youngsters. Then you changed to water through recommendation of Mike, yeah?
I wouldn't say it would. I don't want to put Mike in any situation. It wasn't really a recommendation. It was more of just observation, questioning, some brainstorming.
Like that.
Yeah, so the idea,
publicly himself on his Instagram. So
the idea 100% stems from Mike's construction of how he keeps his baby water monitors and his Mertens water monitors. But just through like us talking about how I've asked him a million questions about body structure, of how jobensis really have that. They have a really thick paddled tail, and they're with any time that I've had them in water, they swim through water like little crocodiles. And the times that I've put Blaze out in like a little kiddie pool or whatever, she's freaking nose down swimming through the water with all of her legs tucked like a little crocodile. So, we just had those talks. And when I did have my younger raise up ones with the like a bigger water tub and a couple inches of substrate, I noticed that my this is also a personal experience. The super flighty one that I had mentioned earlier is the only one that I've ever had tunnel. And she would tunnel underneath of her water bowl, or she would be in her water bowl as her hides, or she would take her hollowed out tree log that she had elevated. So that was like her 3 main spots that she spent. But the rest of them, they used their water just as much. Like they were either chilling in their water bowl, swimming in their water bowl, pooping in their water bowl, or always in their water bowls, or they were climbing around doing normal climbing activities. So between me going in and taking out 5 heavy, bigger tubs of water every day, cleaning them out, and so I'll get to it. But I was just going in there, doing that every day, of cleaning them out, having the lizards kind of spaz out, because when you're in there and you're taking out a piece of their enclosure, they're going to be freaking out, running around. So it was kind of like taking steps back, like every day that I would make the steps forward in the morning, tongue feeding them, working with them, and then I'd come home in the afternoon and I'd tear their enclosure apart every day. So it was like taking steps forward, taking steps back. So when I talked to Mike about it, and I was like, dude, they're really spending a lot of time in their water. Do you think this would be a bad idea? He didn't give me 100%. Yeah, do it right away. Go do it. But he was like, I don't see why it wouldn't work. Try it out, see what happens. And I was like, I'm going to add way more rocks, sticks, and I have a bunch of floating plastic plants that are floating out in the bottom, and I have blattis on the sides that goes in the water. So it's not like it's just giant open water pit. They're climbing on greenery and rocks and stuff while they're in the water. It's like basically being in an artificial creek bed. But that is basically the whole point for me doing that wasn't to take something away from them. It was more aimed towards me eliminating coming into their space and disrupting their space every day. So by doing the setup I have now, I just pop the drain on the bottom. Their water comes out. I don't take anything out of their enclosure. I spray their poop off, spray the poop out of the bottom, and then put the couple inches of water back in there. And that, I mean, you can't deny, and anyone that follows them, you can't deny that for wild-caught imported jobensis, I have some of the most sociable and tolerant animals.
Yeah.
So
this is why I'm asking, because
I wouldn't, and like we had talked, I don't want to take anything away from these animals. The whole point of this was, and like you said, if you want a tame animal, if you want a tame lizard, go get a bearded dragon, go get a savanna monitor that's going to sit on your leg. And I 100% understand that. But I'm also at a level of keeping and watching these lizards that I know that my big female blaze, once they get to that point of comfort, you can get them to a point where, yeah, you don't have a puppy dog chilling on your leg. But isn't it awesome to have a dinosaur that's intelligent enough to come up on your chest as it walks up, eats a freaking piece of food 3 inches away from your face, and it knows not to bite your fingers or your face because it's that intelligent and your bond is that tight? So that's basically what I'm pushing for through my practices and all these experiments I'm doing. So I really don't want people to think that, oh, you're just taking the option away from these animals, because I just told you guys at the beginning of this podcast, I have all the materials because I do want to go back to throwing the soil back in there to see, okay, now that they're social and they're at a point where they're okay with me coming in their enclosure every day and they'll walk out onto my arms and they'll tongue feed and everything, can I put the soil back in there and leave the drainage system to where the soil is going to drain all the moisture, and I'll have a tub in the front that I'm just taking a tub out of the front of the enclosure and not disrupting anything else in the environment? Is that going to keep our bond tight and keep them trustworthy in me? So like you said, it's all an experiment and it's all just kind of figuring out what's going to work best. So
yeah. I'm only asking because, like I say, Toad is psychotic, but normally when I change her water bottle, was she a guinea pig? When I normally change her water bowl, I picked a good time for that. When I change her water bowl, she has a spot in the top left of the enclosure, which is like behind the background. She wedges herself in behind that. So I normally wait until she's in there, and then I take the water bowl out. But I hardly ever see her use water. And I don't see my mangroves use water much either. But Toad, the peach throat, doesn't dig. So it's not like she's utilizing the soil. She goes to ground and spends time on the ground.
Yeah, crawl on and everything.
Yeah, she doesn't dig, whereas the mangroves are very much just like burrow raptors. They just live underground like mole people. So I was just curious with the water thing, because obviously I'm doing this bigger enclosure now, so it's going to be, quick maths, Paul, it's going to be over 3 times the area of the enclosure she's in now. So it's going to be a big upgrade for her. And I didn't know whether to go for a big water bowl or just a because they all have tubs that are big enough for them to swim in.
Yeah.
But she doesn't use water, so it's like, do I just keep ground space so she can walk around, or do I go for a bigger water bowl? Or I'm just thinking, because she spends a lot more time arboreally than she does anything else, and depending where your peach throats are from, I've heard, and I don't know how true this is because it's just hearsay, but peach throats aren't found on, for example, mangroved areas where the sea meets the land, where mangrove waters are. They're
more
inland.
Yeah, inner riverways and inner coastals base at the mountain bases and whatnot. And they are near small water, obviously.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm not doubting that. Yeah.
But not like you're saying. It's not, 100%. They're not on the mangroves right on the coast. I don't know 100% sure if they have the salt land like the mangroves do, where they're able to, disperse the salt out like they do. So they're definitely designed a little bit different. And just from off of the little bit of talking that I've done with a couple Indonesian guys and INAT and everything, they're in the inner islands, like you're saying. But it was just hard. I wouldn't come up with this. That's what I've told a couple of people that have come over and seen it. I'm not the type of person that's just going to be like, hey, let me throw this freaking animal in some water because of randomness, just because it seems like a good idea out of pocket, you know. It all stemmed from bases of observation of everyday day-to-day things that they were doing. So, you know, like I said, and it's all experiment. It's not like they've been on water for their whole life. This has only been a couple months, and all just seeing what's going to work best for me, what's going to work best for the animals, what's going to be the most sanitary. I mean, I like keeping their environments as clean and as cleanly as possible, with being as natural as possible. So,
oh, for sure. Parker's saying that he loves your drainage setups and he copied your idea in his new enclosures.
Gang.
gang.
Love you, dude.
Amy said, my peach fruit used to tunnel under her water tub and under other things in her enclosure. She also spends more than half the day swimming in the water tub. So maybe Toad. It's because I called her Toad, and obviously toads don't spend time in water.
You should have named her Tree Frog, man.
If I just named her Frog, she would spend swimming all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't mangrove moles. Maybe I should change my YouTube channel to that. Mangrove moles, Paul's mangrove moles. But yeah, I just don't. And it's the same as the mangroves. Like, I find they spend a lot more time. And this is where I find it really interesting, because when you talk to people, every single person seems to have a different experience on the same species.
Well, let me cut you off really quick. This is just a quick note.
No, go on.
Every animal is individual. We cannot group these things into one massive circle. That's what I've said in other podcasts that I've done before. I have a routine, and I have ticks and do's and don'ts for each and every one of my monitor. So just because me and Paul don't have the same experience, and maybe me and Amy have same of the half experience, our lizards they're the same species. They have the same habits, but they're I don't do the same thing as my brother. We come from the same bloodline. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So
yeah.
we just we all need to keep that in mind with the general ideas that we're keeping in. But keep on kicking. I just wanted to get that in before I forgot.
That's fine, because you're not wrong, because that's why I find it interesting. Because, for example, mangrove, X basking spot, X size enclosure, X amount of soil, X amount of water, X amount of climbing space. But then that doesn't work. Obviously, it's a good baseline across the board, but it doesn't work across the board. And a lot of people are scared to experiment for either A, backlash, or B, for failure. So you tend to just get this blueprint that's semi-okay and semi-works, and you stick to it. And what I like about you and your stuff, and I don't want to get you on here and be like, oh, because there's a running joke on this channel that mangroves need dirt. But like, I'm not interested in that, because like I literally said to you, because we've been talking, you're like, I'm going to switch it back. And I said to you, why not switch one and then compare the difference? Because it's so key, because you're clearly experienced and tuned in enough with your animals to be able to observe if A, it's to their detriment, or B, if it's to their benefit. So I find it really interesting, because I've got all of my mangroves set up differently. To a degree, there's something different about the enclosures. One's a little bit more sparse, one's a bit more water heavy, one's a bit more arboreal, one's more just so I can see. But then the problem is, the one I've got set up arboreally might want to be terrestrial, and the one I've got set up terrestrial might want to be arboreal. So you can't just pigeonhole it. You have to constantly change and see which your animal benefits. And I've just moved this pair of mangroves into this bigger viv, and I've set it up completely differently, just to see if they'll react better or worse, because I can always go back to how they were. And that's what I think it's all about, is to keep it constantly change. And we all want social animals. Like, everyone thinks I'm anti-handling because I'm choice handling. I let the animals do what they want. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to have all of my stuff be able to let me go in there and pick them up, but I'm not at that place yet. And I don't know if that's because of my keeping. I don't know if that's because of my methods. I don't know if it's because I'm right. I don't know if it's because I'm wrong. But obviously, I know my animals are healthy, so that's sort of what I'm going with. But I can tell you this: when I eventually get a captive bred mangrove, best believe I'm annoying that thing every day to make it social as fuck. But with a wild caught, I'm a bit more like hands off.
I mean, like you said, you put it in the best way: choice handling, and not going in there to try to handle this thing like a little teddy bear or something. It's got to be on the animal's terms, and it's all about respect. So
well, it just won't work otherwise, because they're smart enough to, it's called learned behavior, but they're smart enough to learn the behavior that this hand of doom comes in, grabs me. If I just play dead, then, or I don't run off, then I get better results. So
yeah,
it's not
I'll
a
just get
social
put
animal.
right back in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a social animal. There's a big difference, and people fail to realize that. But
Exactly.
That's why I was curious with the water setups, because I just don't see it. And obviously that doesn't mean you don't, because clearly you do. But that's why I find it interesting, because I wonder if I set Toad up with heavy water, if she would then start to use it. Because she doesn't use her water bowl at the moment. Although I did find poo in it today for the first time ever. So maybe she's changing. But yeah, that's just where my brain goes. It's like, maybe I put a massive water bowl into this one. There you go, Father Blue. He's a fan. You got more fans than me.
Hey, my dog, Eddie. That's the man right there, dude. He's doing big things over here, dude.
Yeah, he's been on here before.
Look up to that guy.
Yeah, so
everyone should strive to be like Eddie, guys.
there's that meme. What's it like? Be more like Joe, or whatever that meme is. But like, be more like Eddie.
Yeah.
Never
be like Joe.
No one likes a Joe. Sorry if there's any Joes watching, but yeah, that's just where my brain goes, and it's sort of an unanswered question, isn't it? Because how do we know what's best without changing and evolving and adapting and seeing what the animals? So, for example, my pair of mangroves, flighty as fuck. Put them in this big viv, which is a bit more sparse. There's still branches everywhere because I can't have an empty enclosure because it hurts my soul.
Yeah.
And the female, the shyer of the two, walked along this branch that's 8 foot long and made eye contact with me the whole way through and did not run. And I'm like, something's going on. And that could have been, again, the curiosity because it's a brand new enclosure. Or it could be she's like, well, I like this. This is kind of nice because the branch, she can get behind it slightly so she can...
kind of do like the tuck roll and still
also see me. Yeah. So we'll see how that pans out. But my problem is they're on the floor now, whereas they were above. So that... But sadly, the way my room's laid out, I can't get them high. So, but then again, they were high and they were flighty. So maybe being on the floor and only seeing feet, and they don't perceive that as a person, it could change. I don't know. So we'll have to again constantly evolve and adapt. But over time, I'll be building vivs like mangoes, and everything will be going in a viv like mangoes. Hopefully over the next year or so. If my gill and I hatch and I can sell them, then it will help me fund everything.
Get you some wood and some electrical supplies and some
pretty much, man. So he's just a human being.
He's a superhuman, all right? He's a blue human.
So I think, like I said, I think this podcast is going to be a bit here, there, and everywhere because I think both of us seem to have that personality, which is great.
I told you, if we lived in the same country or state, bro, we'd be some good friends, and we'd be the Joby boys running deep.
The Joby boys. I do need to get more because, like I say, they do seem that little bit more.
I was thinking about it the other day, just based off of a lot of observations that I see from other people and videos that people put up. Because obviously, I haven't kept tree monitors yet, or I haven't kept roughneck monitors, but I feel like a peach throat is a triple hybrid of a Dorianus, a roughneck monitor, and a tree monitor between its behavior, its body styles, and some of its features that it has. I feel like it has, I don't know if your jobensis probably isn't old enough yet, but when it gets a little bit older, it's going to get some really keeled roughneck scales on on its back. And it's not as much as a roughneck monitor, but it's a little bit slighter. And they have like that longer neck than a little bit longer than a mangrove monitor. I feel like their faces almost look more like a tree monitor, and their tails are a lot more tree monitor, like other than the paddle shape. But they use it and curl it in the same ways that a tree monitor would with its reactions and everything. I noticed that. And obviously the Dorianus colors and everything. So I feel like they're just that cool hybrid of all of those lizards, and they all kind of stay in that same Clayton area of the world. So I don't know if that's how evolution fell out, with them just being the ultimate perfect hybrid, all three of those monitors put together or what, but man, I love everything about them.
It's a shame that they get so big. That's the problem.
Because yeah, they do get pretty big.
They're a big lizard. Like, I didn't obviously know that females could get 4 foot, obviously. But normally you hear between 2.5 and 3 foot, and then males 4 to 5 foot. But the fact you've got a female that's 4 foot, let alone a male, it's a big lizard.
Yeah. Which I'm wondering how big my male is going to be, because he's only 1.5 years old now. And he's, like I said, he's about 26 inches long. I don't feed any of my animals power feed at all. They're all fed at a healthy rate with a variety of diets. So he's always been that stocky, like he looks like he has muscles in his arms and in his legs, and his tail's nice and thick, but he's maintained that skinny body tone. So I don't know if he'll be that crazy monster or if he's just going to be a nice, healthy, average, peach throat. That's that 4 foot, 3 foot long peach throat, You know
what's crazy, right? So Mango is an adult female laying eggs regularly. She total length is 28 inches.
That's tip to tip?
Yeah, she's missing about 1 inch or 2 inches of her tail. So say she's 30 inches, because I've measured her. She's 28 inches, because there's a video of her climbing up my leg, and we put the tape measure roughly where her head was and tail was. Yeah. It's about 28 inches, tip to tip, right? Obviously, she's big and bulky.
Yeah.
But my peach throat is, well, one of my mangroves is probably 26, 27 inches, and it's as long as Mango, but obviously they need to bulk out a lot more. Yeah. And I find that incredibly interesting, because it's technically already full size, but it just needs to bulk out. But how can they bulk out without growing more? Which obviously they are going to grow, which kind of scares me, because that means my mangroves are going to get massive. But I found that very interesting, because a lot of people think Mango's huge. Yeah, she's 28 inches. She's tiny, like tiny. So it's interesting. It's interesting. Like I said, she'd be about 30 inches if she had her whole tail. She is missing a bit of her tail, sadly. But my peach rate's 26. My sub-adult male mangrove is probably 28 inches. It's probably the same length as Mango, which is kind of weird.
That's what I wonder, because like I just had little man out, Teary, and he's just like that mini dinosaur. But it's like, how is he going to do that growth when he's already the length almost? Like he's already half the length, but he's so tiny. It's like, I don't know. Like you're saying,
it'd be interesting to see as they grow, because toads, it's almost so weird with the indica stuff. Because for the first year, so I've had her a year next month. I've had her a year next month, and she was probably roughly between 4 and 6 months old when I got her. So she's roughly, I don't know, 18 months old, just say. The first year she didn't grow, and in the last 6 months she's just boom, boom.
They hit and I haven't spurt.
Yeah, which is strange, because you would have thought they would have grown faster in the first year than they would have in the last. But I find this with mangroves as well. Like, my babies haven't really grown, but the sub-adults, they're putting on some weight. And it's a bit, I would have thought the babies would have gone, but don't get me wrong, they're growing. They're a lot bigger than what they were. But if you look at growth rate and size, so calories in into calories out, the bigger ones are getting bigger faster.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily getting fed more. They're getting fed equivalent to their body tones, which I find quite interesting, because in my head, and it's the same with the tree monitor, actually, the first year barely grew. And then she's not been a year old yet. The first 6 months barely grew. The second 6 months, because she'll be a year old in 2 months, just bam, size. And it's interesting, because a lot of people continue to feed like animals are babies, and then as they get into sub-adult to adult stage, they don't wind it back, and then they end up with these fat animals. But with Aldatria, like Aki's and Gillanai and Kimberley's, the first year they're, whereas with the indica stuff, it seems to be the first year we need to hide and conserve, and then the second year it's like eat.
I wonder if that's like, because I have noticed that the peach throats have been the same way. They stay that kind of like around a foot, 16 inches, and then all of a sudden they just blow up. And I almost wonder, like you're saying, like that first year, which they go through so much octinogenic color change in that first year too. And it almost seems like maybe that first year is just purely aimed toward development of internals, instinctuals, some color pattern coming in, getting them ready for, actually going out into the world to hunt down some prey and then grow onto that. So maybe that has something to do with it, because I know some of the studies that have been done of like small baby monitors over in Australia, they hang around wherever they hatched for like almost the first year, just going in and out of those little huts, nabbing stuff when they can. A couple of them grow faster than others, and then those are the ones that move away faster. But it's like, it seems like that first year is almost just tagged around survival, developing those skills of what's going to have to go down for me to survive. And then after that, it's like, all right, you're out the nest.
It's a hard one though, isn't it? Because a lot of us just assume baby monitor, feed it. But it's almost like with these indicus types, you just need to be a bit off the gas. Just give them a bit of time. They're not sexually mature until they're like 5. So there's no rush to pound them. So just for people watching that have them.
They're slow growers, for sure.
Skip
That's the whole reason why I didn't know my female was a male, or my male was a female, until she was 5 years old, is because when she was 5 years old and we started cycling. So
yeah, I want one of these mangrove complex animals so bad, man, but I just don't think I can manage something that large. Just get a Uinoi, the tricolor. They don't get big at all.
This is also coming from Father Blue, who has some of the biggest enclosures in the game for his tree monitors, telling us that he doesn't have the space to come up with an enclosure. So you can only imagine his brain process on how big his indicus enclosure would be. Because I know how big my end game enclosure is going to be. I can only imagine how much his ideas are for his indicus enclosures, since his tree monitors are so massive.
So what I will say is, a Macraei, a male Macraei, is bigger and probably weighs the same as Mango.
Yeah, because they get 4 foot long, right? Or
up to 4 foot.
Up to 4 foot. And I've seen some of Eddie's, man. They got a couple of, I would presume that there's males. They seem like they got some decent sized bodies on them. Like they're not just that little 3 finger wide little big, twig lizard. Animals. They got like some bulk to them. So I could see them being, a lower end medium sized monitor. So he's living the dream. You're living the dream, Eddie. You got a big monitors, bro.
If you do, realistically, the option for small ones are Solomon Island Indicus, but the problem is with Solomon Island Indicus, they're just twat pets because you never see them, and then when you do see them, they try to kill you. So it's like, what's the point? But like,
I had a Solomon Island mangrove for a little while. It wasn't my right timing, and I wasn't ready for it. And like you said, that thing was a freaking batshit crazy hideaway. So things didn't go right.
Well, I'm planning for my jobensis, for where I am now. We've got a 3-year lease on this rent. Hopefully we're still here because I don't want to build all these vivs to have to move. But anyway, my plan for my jobensis will be 7 foot long, 5 foot deep, 9 foot tall.
Hell yeah.
That's my plan for the jobensis. I hope to house a pair, but we'll see how that pans out. But I can go 9 foot tall. But then the question is like, going 9 foot tall into, say, comparison to 6 foot or 8 foot tall, it's like, obviously they'll use the space, but then you have to think of like an aspect of safety as well, like a lizard 9 foot above you, and then you go, 3 foot above you. But I think I've got the space, because my roof pitches, so like the front I'll be able to do like 11 foot, and the back I can do it like 8 foot.
That would be cool. That's
my plan. But there's a couple of moving parts in place. But that's the plan for the jobensis, because they are bigger. They are a bit more active than indicus. Indicus are active, but indicus are, or can be, quite lazy. For example, once Mango's done exploring, she'll move about and do her things, but she's lackadaisical. She's a bit like, whereas the peach throat is. So,
yeah, they're on it, man.
Yeah, I need that little bit more space, but that's the biggest I can give now. Hopefully, in years to come, I'll be doing stuff like 10 by 10 by 10s.
That's my plan for when we move, is a 10 by 10 by 8 foot tall, just so I can do a nice, decent sized water feature and still have a good floor plan. And I want to do a pair, possibly trio, but probably just going to do pairs in each enclosure.
I think you're risking it with a trio from what I've heard, because if you get a female lay, you don't realize, and she gets defensive.
She can matriarch, is what I've heard, just those kind of matriarch and stuff, and be territorial. But if I do pairs, that'll at least kind of open up for me to get that 6th animal and kind of have 3 different setups of animals I can swap the bloodlines with. Because another point that you bring up is like we're in such a limited gene pool with these animals, and our information basis behind these things is you might as well take it with a grain of salt. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know the guys collecting these things. And even if we did, I guarantee you they're not telling us exactly where they caught this thing, because
they get caught and then they all come to one place and then they all get shipped out from that one place.
And then we hear that that's where it's from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's why it's like you never know what locality you're getting. Anyways, we're not there. So I feel like for guys like us in our situation, our best bet is to just get whatever localities we can and vary those things as much as possible, crisscross without inbreeding as much as possible. Obviously you're going to have to do some half sibling inbreeding somewhere down the line, but even that'll help diversify you a little bit. But
I've heard that they're their own species complex, and if that's the case, that means offspring might not be fertile. But I don't know, because I would say mangroves are more diverse than jobensis.
There's definitely a lot more known mangrove, like Indicus complex, than there is than jobensis. But I don't know. I've heard you mention it before, and just from my studies, I feel like not all jobensis are the same jobensis. Like there's subspecies within the species, because there's a lot of differences just between the couple of animals I have. So I can only imagine the differences of what's actually out there in the wild. So
yeah, it's hard to know as well, because until you do it, you won't know. And there's so many variables. Are they going to be compatible in the sense of just the pairing? And then if they do pair, will they produce viable offspring? And if they produce offspring at all? And then there's so many variables. That's what scares me with jobensis. At least I know with mangroves, because it's already been done, that I can just put 2 potions together and get babies.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least we know what the mangrove stat has actually been done, where they've crossed the localities and it's worked out. So there's a glimmer of hope, but at the same time, I'm still on the same boat as jobensis aren't exactly the same as mangroves. So can I really put that much hope into that boat?
Yeah, just have to wait and see. I wasn't exactly sure how big peach throats get until I saw Blaze, and I was like, oh hell, lol. But yes, I'm glad they are so great. The thing is with peach throats that I found is online they will tell you they get anywhere between 2.5 foot and 7 foot. I found. Now that is a big range.
That's a good safe boat to be. You can't be wrong when you tell somebody that.
Between 2.5 foot and 7 foot. I've heard stories of peach throats getting 6 foot. The biggest one I've ever seen was 5 and a bit foot. Not with my own eyes, but in I've seen pictures of it. It's like 5.5 foot, 5 and a bit foot. But they're quite meaty. Like jobensis is quite a meaty lizard as well. So it's not just tail; they are quite big built.
Yeah, they have a build to them, muscular. Like I felt like they're a smaller version of a similar build to like a lace monitor.
Yes, yeah.
Like they have a very similar body build to that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's a good comparison. If they can do Parvo, is there something different maybe within breeding? I don't know if jobensis probably are parthenogenetic, but it's not been proven out to be parthenogenetic, have they?
I don't think it hasn't happened over here in the States, but I'm sure all those island endemic species, there's only one way for those things to get to where they were today, and that is through possible parthenogenesis. That's also how a lot of the croc monitors and Komodo dragons have been able to populate the islands they do. So I would not put that against their name at all.
No, it's just I've had 27 eggs from Mango, and I've only got one, which is one cooking right now. # pray for Parvo.
Pray for Parthos, baby.
Pray for Parvo. That looks okay. So it's rare, because there's 27 eggs, 26, hopefully 26 duds.
But how old is Mango?
It's hard to know, but I think she's about 5.
So she's still at the beginning of her actually cycling herself. So
yeah,
those could
5 and 6. Yeah.
Those could all just be dudded out anyway, with her figuring it out inside of her body, getting you to a point where she is going to produce a viable Partho.
Yeah, this is her 7th clutch that she just laid. She laid 7 eggs, which is ridiculous because she didn't lose any body tone at all. Like you would not have known that she laid eggs.
Yeah,
Whereas
that was the
with
same.
it's
Sorry.
crazy. I know you're good.
I noticed the same thing with my girl when she cycled. It was so hard to tell, but it's crazy.
Did she lay eggs or did she just cycle?
She reabsorbed. She was blown up one day, and then it was like 2 days later. Like she was hanging for weeks, blown up, massive, and then all of a sudden it was like the next 3 or 4 days. All of a sudden it was like, what happened? She was test digging around a bunch, and then dug everything up. Never found any eggs, and it was like with the bulge that she had just went away. So I don't know if she sucked back everything in or
when she cycles. So when they start vitellogenesis, they swell up for like 1 to 2 days. When at the very, very start, they'll swell up for 1 or 2 days. And when I say swell up, for Mango anyway, it's hardly at all. But you can just tell. And the way I can tell with Mango is she goes off food for like 1 or 2 days. And if I don't feed her every day, so if she happens to cycle when on a day I'm quite busy, and I'm not feeding anyway, I wouldn't notice. And then for about 5 to 10 days afterwards, she's more on fire for food, but also she's already got a crazy feeding drive. So again, it's very
so
subtle.
hard to tell.
Yeah. And then after about 10 to 12 days, she balloons. There's a video on my Instagram, and it's like Pray for Partha, and she's huge. And that is ovulation. So once that happens, it's too late. I'm getting eggs regardless. But if they don't ovulate, then they can't reabsorb. So if they're hanging and getting really big, and then all of a sudden it goes away, the chances are they've started vitellogenesis, but they've never ovulated. So while she was hanging and in this time, did you feed her like loads?
Well, I do the same thing as you. I'm not feeding every day, so it was hard to tell because there was days where she was kind of iffy and didn't have full response, and then there was days after where she was super tacked in, like give me more food. And then once she got to the stage where she was kind of looking around her enclosure, kind of testing stuff out for a dig site, is when she was a little bit more aggressive and edgy with me, and then it just went away. And
you might have found that she laid,
but
she ate the eggs because they will eat slugs.
And that is also possible because she had so many freaking holes dug in her enclosure and everything. And the ones that I looked like she had packed back down and stuff, I never found anything. But like, yeah, your monitor ate hers right up. So if they're duds, they know that they're duds and they'll eat them for the nutrients. So that very well could have happened too. So
Mango never ever re-digs hers up, but I'm very good at knowing she's in a cycle, so I feed the fuck out. I feed her so heavy, so she's got everything she needs. But I'd bet everything I own that if I didn't feed her for a cycle, she would dig her own eggs up and eat them.
And that's the thing is, I really want to downsize on some stuff because I want to be way more keyed into these things, and
it's hard.
Way more keyed in because it's not. You can't. I'm like you, dude. I freaking work a 9-10 hour day job on top of take care and all this stuff, and I have other side gigs among animals that I got to maintain every day. So it's really hard to be in there for hours at a time every day just to watch and observe and not be doing maintenance or cleaning or having the day-to-day chores. So I really try to need to lighten my load a little bit so I want to be so keyed in with them that I can notice all these little tiny ticks so that I'm on par for when it happens again. Because as soon as I toss that male in, I want it to be ready. I want her to be ready. I want it to count. I don't want it to just be a freaking roll of the dice and have something go wrong or have an animal get hurt for nothing. So
yeah, it's so hard because that's why another reason why I'm downsizing, because I probably won't be breeding mangroves realistically until my sub-adult pair are up to age, which is going to be another 3 or 4 years. But I want to make sure I learn those animals inside out over that 3 or 4 years. So yeah, but then I've got like Gill and I breeding. Currently, my Kimberleys are breeding. My Ackies have never stopped breeding. Next year, I'll be hopefully breeding Prasinus, like green trees.
Hell yeah.
So it's good, but then also it's like that's a lot on my plate, as well as the full-time job, the YouTube, the girlfriend, the child. So it's like I need to be responsible. So I'm going to move on my Kimberleys. I'm going to move on a couple of other animals. I've already moved on a couple of animals. And I'm really just going to keep tree monitors, mangrove monitors, beach rate monitors, Gill and I, and Ackies. And that's pretty much all I'm going to keep. And then the Ackies, I just leave them to do their own thing. I'm very fortunate that my male is not a dickhead, so he doesn't eat the eggs. So I can, if I miss it, it's not a detriment. And I find the same with the gill and I. The gill and I just do their own thing. So I'm like, okay, I can forget about you. So now all I have to worry about is the tree monitors and the mangrove monitors. But it takes a lot, man. It's hard. Like, I'm very lucky that I know Mango very well, but that's only because I put so much time into her. Like, it's the same as everything, you know. Like, if she was shy, I would find it a lot harder because I wouldn't see her. But because I see her every day and I know every little detail of her behaviors, I know the second she's cycling. And she threw me off with this cycle because I've got notes on my phone. So she normally lays every 90 days. Well, she'll lay eggs 90 days start to cycle, and she's 21 days from start of cycle to eggs pretty much religiously. And 21 days. But this time she laid on the 25th of March, so she should have been 90 days after that. So that'd be 3 months. So April, May, June. So she should have started in June. So she should be starting around now, but she laid on the 31st of May, which was only like 50 odd days. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
right?
Why are you doing this? And it's not like I'm hammering her with food, like egg, because I have no male. I have no horse in the race.
Yeah,
I don't
there's no
want
point
her to lay eggs.
Exactly.
But she just cycled. And I was a bit like, "Are you? You're early." And this really threw me off because, like, you're early. Like, why are you doing? What's wrong? And at first, I thought something was wrong with her because she was like 30 days out from cycling. I'm like, this is too. If it was like 10 days, 15 days, I'd be like, but like a whole month, I was like, that's quite soon. And for the other 6 clutches, she's been clockwork. And to the point where she laid pretty much on the 25th of. Oh, God, I have to think now. 25th of July, 25th of December, 25th of March, and then she laid on the 31st of May. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I was a bit like, maybe she's unwell, kept an eye on her. And I was like, no, this is all the signs of cycling. And then when she ovulated, she got huge. And I was like, I've never seen you get that big. And again, I was like, is something wrong? Because it was different to every other time. And it's because she ovulated 7 eggs. But as soon as she ovulated and went back down, and when she laid, Fee, bless her, she's getting better at it. She's not really into lizards, but she sent me a video and she was like, Mango's got loose skin. I think she's laid. I was like, what's going on? And I came home and I was like, yeah, she's laid. And then 7 eggs.
It just goes to show that no matter what we do, we're still never going to know what's actually going on with these animals, man.
Like,
they're on their own schedule doing their own thing.
But if I was early on, don't get me wrong, I'm still very early on to it. But if that was her like 3rd clutch, that would have threw me now on her 7th clutch.
Yeah.
But like, I was like, because if I didn't know what I know now, I probably would have like. What did I say? This is my beloved.
Uh-oh.
Nah, we're all good. I'm good. You're very good. You literally picked. She sent me a video of the skin. She's like, Mango.
Yeah, that's good.
Also, I don't know if you know, but in the podcast, she also caught an escaped wild tree monitor that got out into the wild. Yeah, she caught it. She came home from work sick, and the tree monitor that had escaped into the wild was on our doorstep. Fee wrangled that, and one of my baby Kimberly's got out. She wrangled that. So she's a professional lizard catcher.
She's a lizard wrangler. Shoot.
Yeah, for sure. That's what her title is in the Discord. It's like lizard wrangler or something like that. Lizard catcher. There you go. Fee should be upgraded to lizard catcher monitor expert. She's getting really good, and she's just as attentive as me, to be fair. And again, she's not into reptiles, so the fact that she can see it just shows how much I must chew her ear off with lizards, because I'm constantly like, oh, right, Mango's doing this, and I need to, and she's just like, it's obviously seeking in. So yeah, get yourself a good lizard wrangler girlfriend, everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, back to lizards. It's hard to know. So I don't envy you because this is a crazy one as well. So Toad, the peach throat, back to peach throats. The last week or two, she's been hanging like this, letting her belly sag. She's been hanging vertically. And I'm like, you're like 18 months old. You have no business cycling. I don't think she is cycling, but she's never done these behaviors before. So it's like, what's going on? You know, it's just like, how do we almost
need like an ultrasound so you can, when you see these weird behaviors, just kind of ultrasound them, see what kind of follicle growth is going on, if any, or...
Well, and she started digging as well now. and she's never dug. She's never been a digger ever. She started digging now, and it's very hot here in the UK at the moment. So I'm like, okay, is she digging to get cool and find a cool spot, or is she cycling at 18 months old? That's too young in my head.
I mean, other monitors do that stuff, though, is the crazy thing.
Tree
so can we really count them out? Like,
I'll let you
know. Tree
if
monitors.
anything happens. A Dacia will lay eggs at 6 months old.
Yeah.
Like, they're, but we assume there's not enough known about jobensis, but indicus, they won't lay fertile eggs until they're at least 4. They won't lay eggs full stop until they're at least 4.
And that's kind of like, can we take that information we get them in and it takes them that many years to finally get adjusted to their environment. So that's why it takes them that long to start producing eggs.
Who knows?
Or can it be like in the wild where it's as fast as they can get to reproduction, they're going to get to that point and start breeding? Because I've said it before, indicus, I feel like a lot of their flighty tendencies and their reasons for being so wary and everything is because they're not an apex predator in where they live. They're always on the food chain, even up into adulthood. So for them to, like, I don't know how to explain it. I kind of lost train of thought. What were we saying for a second?
I think you were basically going along the lines of, at least what I was thinking that you were saying is basically they need to survive, so they need to kill the top of the food chain. So why wouldn't they grow to have eggs as soon as possible? Because if they've got to wait until they're 5 in the wild, the chances are they're going to die.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, totally lost that train of thought. But yeah, they're always on the food chain, so their thought is going to be survive, hide, eat, reproduce as fast as possible because we're probably going to die. So why would 18 months be out of their mind? If 18 months is when their follicle growth starts, then that could be when it is, and you need a male peach thrower right now.
I nearly brought one. I did nearly buy one twice. So I was supposed to get a male peach for it to go in this big viv that I've just built for mango, and it just sort of didn't happen. And then also, when Toad came into the country, 3 jobensis came in, Toad and 2 others. Obviously, I assume they're from the same place. I located a guy that had a male, because I was actually going to rehome Toad because I really wanted to focus on the mangroves, and then I was like, I can't. Anyway, so putting the feelers out there, because I was like, if someone has a male, I will let her go to the right home for the sake of the species, but I'm not just going to sell her for the sake of selling her. Anyway, I got introduced to this guy who's got a male from the same shipment, and it's a male.
Nice.
And I was like, this is perfect. You take her. Basically, he lowballed me. I pretty much politely told him to fuck off. And then I said, I'll buy your male. And then he came up with this high price. And I was like, all right, I'll pay it. Because it's
you're not going to get another one.
Yeah, so I'll pay it. And he was like, all right, cool. And then he just ghosted me. And I was like, oh, fucking hell. But I nearly had a male for her. And if he's watching this, sell me a male. But
we need that thing.
It'll happen, man. I say to people, it's important not to rush this stuff, because otherwise you get caught up so much into getting a male and breeding that you forget to enjoy the actual joy of having a jobensis, or any animal for that matter.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I've kind of been talking to my friends, because I just had my first clutch of pythons hatch in the past couple of days. I'm sure you've seen it on my story or whatever, but it kind of just put a lot of stuff in perspective for me. I was telling one of my buddies, it's like when you first start your keeping career of wanting to breed or whatever, you have this crazy expectation and all these thoughts in your head of it's all rainbows and butterflies and all this money and everything's great. And, I was telling my buddy, I was like, well, my eggs are hatching. I'm not getting anything in the mail from the Cool Guys Breeder Club. I don't have my t-shirt coming. My sticker is not coming. They
left your name off the list.
Yeah. You gotta, that's what I was telling dude, it makes me really just sit back and think about, you gotta just enjoy every single day of this stuff for the little things, because nothing in my life has changed. If anything, I just added 11 more problems and 11 more things to do to my life. And it's I might not ever make any money off those snakes. They could be here until they die. That's why you can't count your eggs before they hatch. You can't say you're going to make this money off of this animal.
Yeah,
it's not as
things
it's
go
not a
wrong.
glorious thing. Like enjoy keeping your animal. Keep it because you love it. Don't keep it because you're going to make money off of it one day, because you'll never enjoy it and you're just going to be sitting there doing chores every day. That's why like people, like some days people might think I'm crazy with my stories just going back to back, but it's like I'm in there to do chores, and instead of doing chores, I just got caught up for 2 hours fucking with my lizards, taking videos, playing with them, and then I'm like, holy shit, I'm supposed to be eating dinner right now. Let me try to bust out these chores really quick. Like that's the hope. That's when you're doing that. That's when you know you got the animal that you love, because you're in there enjoying that thing. You're not in there like, oh, I got to do this. Oh, it freaking sucks. Like, oh, like I think people need to take that way more into accountability, because when you do breed those snakes that you're going to make money on, or those lizards, no cool breeders club is going to be sending you anything in the mail. You're not going to be joining some elite club. You're just going to be the same person with more problems, more snakes or lizards to feed, more stuff to worry about. So keep that in your mind, man. This shit is not all glory. It is work. It is straight work.
That's hitting home to me, mate, because like I say, I'm at a point now where I'm not really enjoying my animals, because it is very much like, oh, fucking hell, I need to feed you. I need to clean you. You've done this. You've upset that. And the last few days, I've just had head in, get Mango in this Viv. And then today, so I think I got her in there about 3:00, and I spent the last 4 hours just sat watching her. And I was like, this is why I keep, like, not, oh, my Gelenai are laying eggs, great. Oh, my Akis are breeding, great. Like, oh my God, Paul on Instagram, you've got such great lizards. Like, I don't do it for any of that. I do it because I love lizards. Like, I had all these lizards before I was on social media. Like, people assume that I have cool stuff because I'm on social media. I had cool stuff, so I went onto social media to show my cool stuff. And being on social media sort of makes you forget how cool your stuff is, because I'm constantly like, I'm getting better with it because I've been doing it a little bit now, but you're very much like, oh shit, I need to go in and take a video, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. But now I just take videos of my animals while I'm enjoying them, and then I just post that as content rather than trying to like, but that's why I need to downsize, because I am getting busier in life, which is also giving me less time. And then having less time means I enjoy my animals a bit less. So it's better. Like selling my Kimberleys, I think Kimberleys are great. I think they're incredible. But I can get Kimberleys again. I enjoy mangroves more. So you said earlier that about ADHD. So I'm going for a diagnosis at the moment of ADHD. And you'll probably relate to this. I've said this before on here. But basically, my whole entire life, I've chased dopamine. Like, let's do this hobby. All in. Balls to the wall. And then I quit. And then let's try this hobby. And then let's do this. And let's go here. And then for some reason, I've never assumed I do it with reptiles, because reptiles have always been a constant. But the only animal I have that I've never, ever, 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 ever thought negatively on are my tree monitors and Mango. Every other animal at one point in time can get fucked. And I think that's my ADHD just going, they don't hit the dopamine anymore. They don't.
Yep.
They don't do it for me anymore. I still think they're incredible. I still love them. They're still like, whoa. But they don't set my heart on fire like Mango does, like my tree monitors do. So I think more so me and potentially other ADHD people than normal people need to really make sure you're focusing in, because it's I more than anyone is very much like, oh, let's get this, oh, let's get that, oh, let's get this, oh, let's get that. And then you find yourself back in the same boat, square one, up shit's creek without a paddle. Going, I don't want these.
Yep.
Why did I do this?
I'm 100% the same way with you. I'm sure people could look at my Instagram page, and if you just scroll through it, you'll see the periodic shit. Yeah, like, oh, he was into that for a couple months. Oh, then he was into that for a couple months. But the one steady thing has always been the pop-up carpets and the peach throats and everything. It's just because I'm obsessed with carpet pythons.
Yeah.
Just because they've always been mesmerizing to me since I was a kid. So I've always liked those. And then monitors just for that awesomeness of being a monitor, a dinosaur, and everything. Yeah. Oh, I wanted to tap. You said something about it earlier. I freaking forgot to tap back into it. How we were talking about the intelligence of them and how they're so bird-like. I had brought that up in a previous podcast to some other guys, that how I've actually had a lot of experience with some exotic parrots and other exotic birds and hornbills and all kinds of stuff. My buddy's into exotic birds, so I've gone and helped him with his collection and other people's collections. So I've got to experience how smart and intelligent birds are, and comparing not only the way that birds' brains, but the way that their eyeballs work so similarly to reptiles and how they take in their surroundings. Like, I don't know if you notice with your indicus, like when you're staring them in the eye, you can see their pupils dilating in and out, and like they're looking around, looking at everything.
And their eyes move as well. They're not fixed.
You can watch them absorb everything in their environment. It's almost like you can see, you can't see what they're thinking, but you can see that they are thinking and that they're making stuff's going on in that brain, just like as a bird would. So I feel like that's such a great comparison, is like, if you can say a bird is so smart and so intelligent, well, don't ever say a lizard's not smart and not intelligent, because their brains are on the same level of intelligence and working and how they operate and take in their environment. So
yeah, for sure, they are. That's why it's so important to give them stimulation. It's why it's so important. Like the video of your smaller male that you sent me yesterday, when you were like tapping your fingers on the floor, and he was like,
"Yeah, what is it? What, food? Hand? What?"
That to me is so. I want to get mine to all my animals to that level where I can just get them out, leave them to their own devices, but play with them in the sense of, what's this, what's that, rather than just like, ooh, coochie coo, or like, what's this, what's that, how are you, what's going on here, like, and like we let our bearded dragon out, and even our bearded dragon, he is arguably the dumbest, sorry Fee, in our room. He's still, like, honestly, he's probably got the best personality of any animal I've ever owned. He's like cool little dude. But he comes out, he runs around, he knows where the back door is now, so he goes and sits by the back door, like looks out at the sun. And even then, an animal we perceive as dumb, he's figured out his little run and his little routine, and he knows he does this, and Fee lets him out, and Fee will feed him and stuff. Like he knows how to tug at her heartstrings. He knows what he's doing.
100%.
And that's only I say only, again, he's arguably one of my favorites, but that's only a bearded dragon, let alone when you start getting into these more intelligent, because who are we to deceive?
Who are we to say which one's more intelligent than the other? But I get 100% what you're saying. They're more of a laid back animal, move when you have to, eat when you need to, bask, chill. But that was one of the things I was hoping people would notice, like putting up the stories of all day yesterday while I was messing around in the room. I had that little man Thierry's enclosure open for a solid like 2 or 3 hours. And he would just cruise around the room, checking everything out in the room, come suss me out, look at me, crawl a little couple steps up my leg, change his mind, go back on the floor, go into his enclosure for a second, come right back out. And I feel like giving them that opportunity, that gives them such a confidence boost for themselves, to where the next time they are going to be okay with, you either coming into their environment to do whatever maintenance you have to do, or them coming out and there being a quick movement by you or something going on. They're not going to be so flighty or susceptible to just taking off and going into that defense mode, because I feel like that's been my biggest gain with working with these monitors, is letting them out into that neutral zone and not trying to contain them in the neutral zone. Like, it's obviously hard for someone to take a giant area out of their house or their yard, make it a neutral zone, make it a zone where they can't get out of or something can get into. So it's obviously hard to find that area. But when you do get an area where you can work your animal like that, you'll notice you'll notice how many steps forward you can take in such a quick amount of time, because you can only go back to just, they're so intelligent. They're just able to take in their environment and not feel like they're guarding their little area. They're in an open area where they're able to take in what's going on and not feel like I have to run or I have to protect this area that I'm in, because they are still territorial about their cage. How you were saying Toad is a wild child little spaz head in her cage, but then you get her out and she's chill, like.
Yeah. So let's get into a question quickly then. What would you say is the most important thing you've learned since keeping jobensis? If you could only give me one piece of advice, obviously we'll get into more, but just the first thing that comes to your head, or the most important thing, if you could give me one piece of advice for Toad, but I've just brought her. I've never kept a monitor before. I've just brought Toad. What's the one piece of advice that you're giving me?
Okay, so you just hit me up. You just bought Toad.
Hey man, love your stuff. You've got sick lizards, bro. How do I get them to be like this? Please give me advice and help. Okay, kiss, kiss.
Kiss, kiss. I'm gonna hit you back up. I'm gonna hit you with the shakas. What's up, bro? I'm gonna be like, yo, man. I'm gonna not bore you with this information over what I'm talking, but I'm gonna hit you with a list of parameters that I think you should hit in your enclosure in certain areas, such as hotspot, humidities, so and so. And then I'm gonna hit you with. Ask me the question one more time.
I just want you to tell me
piece of advice.
the one most important thing. I've only got time to have one piece of advice. Yeah. I just want to take one thing from you.
Get your parameters right and watch your animal and learn from it. Do not try to do anything else with it. Watch your animal and learn from it.
Okay.
Don't try to assume you know your animal. Watch that thing and take everything in. What its ticks are, what it's doing, what it's not liking, and learn from that.
And then I'm going to reply. Thanks for replying, bro. Can't believe it. Love your stuff. What parameters, what temperatures should I be achieving? I know I was only going to ask one, but now we're going back and forth over Instagram now. This is kind of good. Roleplay. Like it. What kind of temperatures do I want?
All right, dude. You said you got a jobensis. It's a new baby. I'm going to say you should set that thing up in a decent size enclosure. Nothing small, but also nothing massive. So I would aim for something around 2 to 3 foot long, 2 to 3 foot tall, and also 2 to 3 foot deep. Maybe if you have an awesome cube enclosure that you can use that's a 3-foot cube, that would be ideal. Get you a cold side that's in somewhere in the high to mid 70s, and also get you a hot side that's in chill in the ambient area in the 80s. I want you to get you a higher up basking platform or stick or something that's kind of wider than the body of your lizard, so it can really lay out, also longer than the body of your lizard so it can stretch out. And I want you to get 1 or 2 bulbs to completely illuminate that whole platform. And I want you to get it anywhere. Since it's a younger monitor, these are a thin skin monitor, regardless of what people tell you. With it being at this age, I want you to get that hot spot anywhere from 115 to 125 degrees. Other than that, I want you to keep everything chill. I want you to mist that monitor in the morning, give it a good misting for a couple minutes, get that environment nice and humid, and let it dry out for the rest of the day. Give it a good water basin. Make sure it has good circulation. If you have to, put a small computer fan in there. Keep the circulation in your room going so that the air is moving in and out of your vents.
And then I'm not going to reply because it's Instagram.
You're not going to reply because this guy just texted you a freaking book back on the third message. There's no simple answer, you guys. I agree. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with all of that. I wouldn't argue with any of that. I wouldn't argue with any of that. I'd go bigger enclosure. Because when I first got Toad, I had her in a 4 foot long, 2 foot deep, 3 foot tall enclosure. Semi set up, semi sparse. And then she started to go downhill quite quickly. So I messaged a few people in the US because no one in the UK had really kept them. I said, hey, this, that's like that. And they were like, oh, no, you need to do this, you need to do that. And my gut was like, you're wrong. But I was like, I'll try it. And anyway, long story short, Toad nearly died. So I just threw her in a completely bioactive, dense, plants everywhere enclosure where I did not see her for months. The food disappeared and I saw poo. So I was like, I assume she's okay. I caught a glimpse of her after about 2 months. And her skin was tight. She was rehydrated. She was a lot more alert. She was a lot more attentive. She was a lot more just active. She was less lethargic. So my advice again would just, like you say, put it in a big enclosure, get it hot, leave it alone. I like it. So yeah, for sure.
Study it. Study that thing. Don't try to socialize it. Study it. Literally just had my buddy message me. He got some monkey lizards yesterday and he said, all right, man, what do I need to do? I said, get a routine. I said, you're going to want to start your routine is your basis of where you're going to build this socializing relationship with your lizards. So your routine is your base. Once you get that routine solid for the first 2 months of you watching your lizard, learning its ticks, and you having that day-to-day routine where the lizard's learning its day-to-day routine, that is the basis for the start of your relationship with your lizard. Once that is solid with both of you guys and they've got that little bit of trust, then you can start building and stacking on the socializing skills and techniques and everything. That's how I see it, and that's what I was just telling my buddy yesterday. So
I personally believe that these animals live for 20 plus years in the right parameters. There's no rush to socialize them. If it takes you 2 years to socialize it, you still have 18 years with a social animal.
Exactly.
There's no rush.
That's what I love. A couple things I've heard you say it in your podcast is saying that, and I'm like, man, this guy's preaching the right stuff, because that's people don't. Why is that your first rush? I mean, obviously, I'm over here trying to make my animals social, but I'm trying to do it in the most humane way of not me just going in and grabbing my damn lizard. I'm watching and observing them. What's going to work for me to gain their trust, not just grab it and scratch it. Yeah.
It's don't get me wrong, there needs to be a level and there needs to be a line, because your captive can't be scared of you, because obviously what life in captivity is that if it's scared of its keeper. Now, I agree with that. My mangroves arguably are still scared of me. I've had them now, so what, we in June? So I got them in December. So I've had them 6-ish months. But 6 months in the span of 20 years, let's just say they only live 10 years. Let's just say they live 10 years. 6 months.
Fraction of time.
Yeah. So, but they're scared of me, so I leave them alone. So, yeah, okay, people are like, yeah, but they run and hide, and then they learn that they can hide from you. Great. Great. And then when they get a bit bigger and they keep realizing they keep running from this thing, but this thing keeps coming back, and this thing's not trying to get us, and he's not trying to kill us. Admittedly, I did dig them both out today to put them in the new video, and they both went batshit crazy. So hypocritical pull.
Can't avoid that. I mean, I tell people, we can preach these step forward techniques and tips every day, but I tell people at the end of it, I take 5 steps forward and 3 steps back all the time. It's all about consistency. You got to keep taking those steps forward with those steps back.
Yeah, it's like I got them out, dug them out, and they're in a 6x3x3, not anymore. They're in an 8x3x3, but they're in a 6x3x3, and both the little fuckers live in the back left corner in about this by this square. They bury and they both sleep on top of each other. So I'm digging them out, and the male has like this iridescent blue shine to him. He's stunning. Cameras don't pick it up, but he's stunning. He literally is like a Brazilian rainbow boa. And I got him out, and he's in my hand, and my phone was just here, and I was like, no, Paul. And I just put him in the Viv, because normally I take the chance to take a few pictures and videos for the gram, and I was like, not today. And I picked the female out, and I did a quick, they're okay. So I mean, they were in my hands for less than 30 seconds, and they just scarpered off, and then the female came right out. And I feel like if I held them for 10, 15 minutes, click, 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 like the iPhone, it's got 3 cameras.
It's got 3 eyes on it, man.
Those lizards scare the shit out of them. Don't get me wrong. I take pictures and videos, but I also try and post captions about I don't handle them, and it's just only getting them out, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so I got them out, quick look over them. I was like, oh my God, you guys are so stunning. And then I put them back into this new enclosure. And I probably won't see them now for another 3 months, but the joys of keeping mangroves. Like, don't get a mangrove, or even a jobensis for that matter, if you're expecting to get it out and play with it. It's just not the one. Not
at all. I have people message me, one of my buddies out on Instagram that messaged me with his peach throw all the time, Brandon. He's always like, oh, it's not doing this, it's not doing that. I'm like, dude, don't expect it. It's not gonna happen. It's not. And then he'll be like the next day, it got on my arm to eat. I'm like, dude, take that as a mile-long win. You just won a mile marathon doing that. Don't get discouraged tomorrow. You won. All right. That's good. That's a young monitor. It's not going to be doing like what you think it's going to be doing.
Oh, for sure. I'm going to find his Instagram. He was on here earlier. I'm pretty sure his name's Logan, but I forget.
Yeah. I talked to him too. Yeah, I talked to him too.
I am so jealous of how social his jobies seem to be. Like, yours are incredible. His are smaller than yours.
His are chill.
And they seem like, and I'm like, you motherfuckers, you've all got the nice list. My one is bitch. I mean, she's not. When she's out, she's fine. But like, I watch yours and I watch his, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what?
His are very chill, man. Me and him go back and forth talking on Instagram. He's got a nice little setup for his too. All 3 of them living together with some good areas to run away and hide and stuff.
He's messaged me a few times in the past. We've spoken a few times in the past. He seems like a good guy. I haven't spoken to him loads. Maybe I'll get him on the podcast one day if he's down. But yeah, I do find, like I say, we keep coming back to it, but I do find that the peach throats are that little bit more social than the mangroves. And I do think to myself, I think I've made a mistake. I've got the wrong species of the Indicus complex. Maybe I should have gone peach throats this whole time.
They're so underrated, man. I feel like, no one's really bringing them to light at how awesome of a lizard they are. Like, I never even really knew about it before finding out about them and then looking into them to get my own. So I can only imagine people that know less than what I know probably don't even know what the heck they are. And then if they do, they probably just take one look at it and bat an eye at it. They're not really understanding how awesome of a lizard it can be and how much you can get out of it. So
it's hard as well because most of the time you see babies, and obviously babies of any monitor are just run because in the wild they're just going to die.
yeah.
And again, I think I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. Mike's Monitors is the only person in the States to breed them, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah. And that was like in the 90s?
Decades ago, dude.
Yeah.
Decades ago, like early 2000s type shit.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that's mad.
Yeah. I've told that man, I was like, if I produce these, well, when I do produce these, I'm freaking gifting you one. Get you back in the game, because all he talks about is getting back into them now. So it'd be cool to put the mentor back in the game with the firstborn captive born since his. Man, that'd be such a freaking honor, man.
He loves. I've never spoken to him. I've followed him. I've never spoken to him, but he seems to love a monitor that loves water.
Yeah,
he's really drawn to the water. The Mertins, obviously, he's got Coming Eye. He's now got
some sulfurs and Togians and So he's got some cool shit, man.
Yeah, he's like I say, he seems.
I feel like he just gets the enjoyment, which he's said it multiple times. He really gets the enjoyment out of building the water features and how cool they look, and just like seeing the activity of it. So I totally get that, because I love building the giant treescapes and seeing them climb and everything. So it's just the same tick, just water level. But
I think as well, Mike is. This is going to probably come out wrong, but he's the perfect example of you don't have to overcomplicate it. Set them up. Give them what they need. Leave them the fuck alone. And,
I mean, you can't argue with his results. That's what he does.
Yeah,
gives them what they need, feeds them what they need, leaves them the hell alone. Those animals love him and respect him, and he respects and loves them, and they do nothing but produce for him. So
I have to reach out to him and get him on.
Yeah, and he's an awesome source of information, you know. I mean, regardless of what anyone has opinion-wise on him or anything, you can't take away his past of working with lizards and all his credentials. So, I mean, he's a source of information. I tell people all the time, you know, the certain good older guys that we have left in the hobby, you know, we need to absorb all we can out of them, because they're not going to be here forever, and they're not out there like we are on social media promoting everything, which Mike is better than a lot of the older heads out there. He does promote a lot of his stuff and show a lot of his work, which not a lot of guys do. So we need to take everything we can in and grow from that, because it sucks starting at the bottom.
I've just listened to the Monitor Keeping podcast with my boy Will Exotic. I saw in chat people saying he's not here because he's a fucking fake fan. Why not?
Yeah, I'm halfway through that pod. That's a good one so far.
Fuck Will Exotic. Clip it. Send it to him.
God damn it, man. You're going to have me spin water out by the end of the pod.
I'm going to stop making jokes when you're drinking. There goes my monetization, but fuck Will Exotic. Anyway, I forgot what I was saying now. Oh, yeah. The Monitor Keeping podcast. I listened to that. I've just finished it. I finished it yesterday, I think. And at the end, they have a bit of a segment. Kai, Alan, and Will all have a segment in the sense of there's a lot of drama in the hobby right now, and there's a lot of people not coming together, and there's a lot of people not respecting old guys, and there's a lot of old guys not showing younger guys, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm not really interested in it, but the point is relevant. You can't bash people for what they've achieved just because they've achieved it in a way that you don't agree with, because the pioneers trickle down, and it's up to us to bottom feed. You know, I didn't have a mentor, and now I'm doing what I'm doing with mangroves, and that's because I picked snippets out of people that released the tiniest little fucking slivers of information, and I took it and I ran with it, and now I share.
Exactly.
Now, does that make the person trickling information bad? Yes. No. Is it even important? No. Why are we all getting caught up on it? Take what you can get and be grateful for it. But at the same time, people should share. I'm not saying people shouldn't share, but people should definitely share. I got you, Paul. Yeah, clip it. if that's what you're talking about, Gary, clip it, fuck Will Exotic, and send it to him. He's a prick. Anyway, back to your scripted podcast, so the Captain podcast. But yeah, so what would you say is the biggest hurdle you've faced since starting keeping monitors?
I definitely the finding of information and just getting people that, you know, like we're just saying right now, that want to share and be some sort of a community around this. Like, that's why I love what you're doing, you know, building your community. And maybe not everyone in your community keeps mangroves, but they're dedicated to what you're doing and they're passionate about your passion and they want to learn and share the information. And I don't want to give up some stuff I got in the works, but I got a little something in the works that I'm trying to do over on this end to try to bring in a tight-knit tribe, because I only am going to learn so much, and other people, and I can only share so much of what I've learned, and other people may know some stuff that they don't know about me or whatever. So I kind of want to get that group together or get some feelers out to kind of get that little tight-knit Indicus group or jobensis group over here, so we can share the information, share our experiences, you know, what's going on with you, what's going on with my lizards. He may have a connection over in Indonesia that I don't know about that we can gain information from. Maybe we can meet some people in Indonesia. Like, just want to, like you're saying, you got to build that little community around, like, or at least nowadays, it seems like you have to build your own little community around what you're dealing with, because that's the best way to gather information, share information, and it not be this one guy knows it and he's only going to tell that person because they're friends with him, but he told that person don't tell anyone because he's worked for all this information and blah blah blah. It shouldn't be like that. If you're like that, then you're not for the animal. I'm 100% for the animal. So even if someone hits me up and I might think you're a dimwit, I'm going to give you all the information I know, and I'm still going to send you paragraphs of text messages even if you don't even read them, because I'm so in love with this species that when I hear someone that I might think is a dimwit that has this animal, I'm going to give them more information than I possibly can, because I want that animal to survive. I want every chance possible for that animal to survive or not suffer until it dies, you know? So yeah, sure, that's, man. I think that building that community around what you love is very important.
Yeah, that's the only reason I started social. I started in May last year. Just because I was sort of fed up. I was in a different place to where I am now in the sense of my mindset towards the reptile hobby, but I was so fed up of seeing all these shit enclosures on Facebook. I was like, oh, I just wish there was like a hub. And I think my original YouTube bio was like something like, let's build a community around monitor lizards, guys. now look at me, past Paul.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just so sick of seeing stuff that I was like, I don't know. At the time, and still to this day, I don't know what I have to offer. But at the time, I didn't know what I had to offer outside of just honesty. And I think that's all I still have to offer nowadays is just honesty. But at least people know that I'm going to be real. And I am a little bit more experienced than most. I am also nowhere near as experienced as others. And I'm no stranger to admitting that. Like, I have no shame. But then like I said to you to start this podcast, we're all on a car journey and we're all taking in the views. And sometimes you're so enamored with one thing that you miss the other, you know? So you can't take the good without the bad, and you can't take the bad without the good. And I try to share both so people know that that's the reality of keeping, you know? Sometimes things die, sometimes things go wrong. Sometimes, like, the only reason I realized Toad was so special is because she had an injured knee and I had to get her out to treat her, and I got her out and she was like, sup bro, you want to be like best buds? So I was like, why are you not running away? She was like, don't know. And that's the only reason I found out, because for the most part I'd have just left her alone. And I didn't shy away from that. I didn't say to people, oh yeah, it's all the hard work I've put in. It's just fluke. She just happened to be super social outside of the enclosure, you know, and I don't try and hide away from that. I don't lie and go, yeah, I've spent like the last 9 years like on my knees doing this. I didn't. It was right. Pure luck.
Yeah.
Whereas with Mango, it's been hell. Like, I've shared that. Like, it's not like Mango's got a lot better, even though she bloody bit me the other day, the bitch.
That
But
was crazy.
yeah, she was so fast.
I was actually on the live tuned in when that happened. I was like, well, I caught the good part of it.
I mean, I played that well. Mike clipped it for me. I'm going to put it as a reel. But literally, she jumped out, bit my finger. And I was like, oh, Mango just bit me. And inside, I was like, oh, fuck, oh, fuck, oh, fuck.
I just got whacked.
I was like, oh, my God.
I was like, man,
so
he's
much.
playing this off like he just didn't get tagged by a damn adult indicus. Like, my wife's the only one that's been bit by Blaze, and she fucking was tore up for months from that thing.
Thankfully, she did just nick me. It could have been a lot worse. But my whole arm, because I... was it Euprepiosaurus? So the Prasinus complex and the Indicus complex, their venom really messes me up.
I heard your story about that. That's actually pretty crazy.
Yeah. But Mango's bite, so I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teeth. I've got 6 scratches on this finger, and it was just a split second. We all saw it on the live. My whole arm, man, was like throb. Like, I fucking hurt. Like, not like, oh my God, I'm in so much agony, but it's such an annoyance pain.
It hits like your joints. Like, it's almost like a joint pain or something. Because when I've had like the little babies bite my hands or whatever, and I've just been like, oh, whatever. And then it's like 30 minutes later, every joint in my hand is like feeling stiff and sore. And I'm like, it's almost like you're feeling that crampiness to open your hands or whatever. And then like all of a sudden it's in your wrist. It's like, dude, that was whatever saliva
it's bad
potency they got going on it doesn't do a lot, but it does something. Like you're saying, it's almost like an annoying pain to where you're just like, you can feel it there.
You want it to go away. Right. There's a couple of questions. Cold climate monitors. I don't think they exist. Worst case, they're on the equator. Best case, they're in Australia. Tegus. They're not monitors. Yeah, but even then they want it hot. So what are you saying is cold climate? Get back to me with the results. Hey, was wondering what humidity levels you both keep your jobensis at. So I keep Toad around 65%, and when I spray her, it spikes to like 90. What are you doing for yours?
Mine generally stay around the 60% area. I'm in Florida, so we have a generally high ambient humidity. So they normally stay 60 to 70 as their ambient humidity. And then when I do my misting, they'll have that spike to about 100% humidity until that burns off. Then it goes back to the 60, 80%. But in my winter months, when I'm running my heaters in the room out there, is when I do battle my humidity the most. And I've had it drop down into like the high 30s, low 40s. And that's when I'm starting to run the humidifier in the room, and I'm misting multiple times a day, usually with warm water at that point, because if you miss with cold water, you're getting a disaster. When you put that warm water in there with your heat running and everything, it'll actually create humidity in your room, and you'll get that humid effect in some of the enclosures. So that is also a big key.
This is an interesting one then. Now we're on this topic. Do you let yours get cold in the winter?
They don't have like a daytime cold period. Obviously, the ambients are going to be a little bit cooler because just the way where my building is. So their ambient will be obviously, instead of their ambient being in the high 80s or mid 80s for most of the day, it'll be, higher 70s for majority of the time. But the main thing, the main thing that they get from the cold time would be their nighttime drop, and I've had that drop down into the 60s. So
high 60s, low 60s.
Low 60s is the lowest that room will go, because that's what I do to cycle my pythons in that room. So I think the lowest it got this last winter was like 61.
Okay, I'm just converting
63. But that is also, I can't say that that's what the lizard temperature was. I'll make sure to do some laser samples this year during the wintertime. But that is just like the ambient room temp. Their enclosures obviously were holding residual heat from the day before and from their lamps. And I'm sure they have like little nooks in their enclosure.
I was going to say, though,
not going to be 61 exactly.
You're 61 though. In my room gets to 61 in the winter, and my enclosures get to. Hang on, let me convert it because I am not an American.
Sorry, I didn't.
No, that's fine. I can convert it. So my enclosures get to 64. So I let my enclosures get down to 64, which is like 16 degrees for those who are wondering. Thanks, Mike. I think that's a massive key And then I don't spray mine in the winter because obviously wet and cold is respiratory infection. So I
Yes.
let mine get down to like the 40% humidity for a couple of months. And I might spray them once or twice a week so they get spikes. Always make sure they've got fresh water to get into if they do want to. And I do that with my mangroves. I do that with my prasinus. I do that with my jobensis. I've seen no detriment, only for a couple of months of the year.
Yeah, it's just those couple winter months. Maybe I'll even try spraying a little bit less this winter, which I normally don't, but it's normally just to like when that humidity is kind of getting really low and I can like feel the air dry in the room is when I'll turn the humidifier on and give them a little mist. As well,
though, because obviously if you're still cooking them at like 130, and you're at like 40% humidity, but if you drop your temps to like 110 and then let everything else drop and then dry them out naturally, not deliberately, but naturally, and maybe just give them, let's just say you normally spray for a minute, let's just say do 30 seconds, so it burns off quicker, so the humidity, and do it earlier so the humidity doesn't go through into the night, because obviously it spikes at night anyway. That's what I do with my mangroves, and there's no detriment, no issues.
I haven't seen any health issues with mine doing it and letting them get the drop at all. I feel like if anything, they benefit from, because they do need a little bit of that temperature drop to actually get into like an actual sleeping state. So I'm sure it doesn't help.
The mangroves like the cold. They like seeking out low to mid 60s spots. Like they'll sleep. Like in my old place, we had a draft coming through the front door, and Mango's enclosure was right by the front door. And she would literally sleep with her head against the glass, like 2 foot from the front door, where the breeze would hit her enclosure, and she would deliberately, and that was cold. Here in the UK, we get cold. Like we get down to like, again, for you Americans, we get down to like, we can get down to like 23 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, that's cold.
Which is like -5. We can get colder than that. But yeah, obviously not in the actual houses. The houses stay warm.
Yeah.
But outside, but she was sitting in the breeze, and that was cold. Like you'd feel it. It was like icy chill, and she literally picked, and she was like,
yeah. It's almost like they like having that cool temp at night to really get them into a sleep state. It seems like.
Oh, for sure. Like right now, my room doesn't get colder than 71, so they can't find colder because my room but we're coming into summer, so my room naturally ramps me up and down naturally at night, and I don't try and fight it. I just leave it to do its own thing.
That's how I'm doing mine too.
Yeah, because I don't trying to fight it. It's just too much effort. If you just let it be, obviously
use it to your advantage, and then use your tools like your AC and your heaters to manage it.
Yeah, for sure. Green tree monitor basking spot 120 for most monitors, to be honest. Like ambience are going to be different, but for the most part, basking spots are going to be between 55 to 60 degrees Celsius, 120 to 130 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever mimic off days, like cloudy, rainy, if applicable, windy? I don't.
I can't say that I do. Like the off days or whatever. I will say that like seasonality wise, like right now, if people that have been following my Instagram, you just seen that within the last month or so, as we're getting into the summer peak out here in Florida, I've dialed back a lot of my timers on my basking spots to be less hours of the day and just running the lights into the night so that it's not as hot for as long. So I would say that is a little bit of an adjustment that they get. And I do vary my misting, which they do get misted daily, but there will be days and times where I will mist, like say twice a day, or mist for longer and let the soil actually get moist in there and get wet. So there's variation, but I've never mimicked a day where there's been no UV light on, because to us, we perceive it as, oh, it's a cloudy day out. There's no sun. You're just not seeing the sun.
Yeah,
there's still sun shining through the clouds, and there's still UV shining through the clouds. So those lizards are still, it might be cloudy out, that thing's still going to be out on a stick trying to absorb anything it can for maybe whatever fraction of time it has. So I haven't got that far into my elaborateness with keeping, but that would be awesome to do one day.
Yeah, I season mine. So the winter, I barely spray, barely feed. Coming into spring, I start to spray more, start to feed more. Summer, I'm spraying every day, twice a day, and I'm feeding more or less every day, more little than often, and more little and often. So I'm not doing like loads and loads and
Giant
loads.
bunky stuff, yeah.
But I'm
Little
just
bunches
feeding
of little
like
stuff.
often. And if I do a bigger meal, then I'll skip a few days. And then coming down into autumn, I'll start to feed less. I'll start to spray less, and then coming into winter, then I'm not spraying and I'm not feeding, and I'm dropping the temperatures a little bit. So, yeah, there you go. In Florida too.
As far as windy goes, oh, nice, awesome. Mine seem to stay in the 50s, sometimes sticky. It's a struggle. Any suggestions? Possibly maybe doing a Mist King system. If you don't want to do a Mist King system, you could always do
I
one of
think
like the
Amy's
cheaper.
got it in an Exoterra, so I would switch out to a vivarium because that will hold humidity better.
Yeah,
glass.
PVC will always hold your humidity better. Or if you did a custom build with wood and dry locked it, that's also going to hold some humidity better. If you don't have the means to do that, if you have to stay with your XO, one of the foggers from a pet store can help you out with that, setting that up on a timer for a couple hours, or not a couple hours, but a couple minutes a day.
Yeah, or cover your screen top and don't run your fogger at night because you increase the chance of respiratory infections.
Yeah, dude, definitely do all your fogging and misting in the beginning half of your day, if not in the morning. That way it gives everything time to burn off. And your monitor is like Paul's saying, it's not sitting cold and wet is bad. Warm and wet is good. If it's cold and you need it to be wet, warm water, not cold water, not hot water.
Lukewarm, like you're bathing a baby.
Yes.
Some days, if cooler outside, I run one basking bulb instead of two. Spray a lot more when I do this as well, and try not to feed on these days. Yeah, I think it is good to mix things up. Like I say, I don't have a schedule. I don't have a routine. I'm intuitive to my monitors. If they're pacing, they're active, they're investigating. Oh shit, they're hungry. Better feed them. If they're hanging around, not doing a lot, they're probably hot or full. So if they're hot, I'm gonna spray. I'm gonna count to that. If they're spending more time near water and in water, okay, they're probably not humid enough. Let me spray them some more. So again, like you were saying, you need to be attentive.
You gotta watch your monitor. It's gonna tell you everything it needs. You just have to be able to watch it and learn and know how to read it. It's not going to tell you verbally.
No, sadly they cannot talk to us. That would be my superpower. If I could pick one superpower, it'd be talk to animals.
Yep,
for sure, man.
100%.
Polycarbonate sheet over half the screen on Exoterra works great. Yeah, so just stick some plastic over it. I don't know if we can say this, Gary. I think it's politically incorrect. But I am white AF and learned that as a kid. I don't know what we were talking about, but
I don't either.
This is the problem, like literally, because I'm talking to you and then I'm trying to pay attention to the chat. I just lose what's going on. So welcome to the podcast, everybody.
I can't do the chat and the thing. I can barely keep track of what I'm saying.
It's a real struggle.
The one comment though asked about windy days. I didn't get to that. I run two industrial fans in my room, and they have individual fans in their enclosures. So there's always a breeze. Some days the fans get run on high. Some days they get run on medium. So there's their wind fluctuation.
I have added a vent in the top middle of Mango's new enclosure, and I will be installing a fan to the top of it to move the air around for the be one of the first times I've done it. I've had it a couple of times, but only as like a sort of MacGyver rigged it up. Whereas this one's going to have a proper vent to be able to push down into the middle of the enclosure. And I've got ventilation above the door, ventilation here, ventilation there. So I've got multiple crossways so the air can come in and proper circulate around. Hopefully.
Hell yeah.
So
that shit's key.
Oh, Gary was saying he learned that you get sunburn on cloudy days. Thanks, Gary.
I told you. There's always sun, even though there's clouds.
This is why you need to get a solar meter so you can go outside and check. But yeah, I mean, this is the problem I have with the podcast, right? Conversation, peach throats, great. Go to the chat, and now I'm like, where the fuck do we go from this? Because like it's like no conversation. You know what I mean? It's like. But then that's why I think people like this podcast, because it's very real and there's not like a script to go back to.
Yeah, that's boring.
But I know you had some questions for me. I don't know if we've answered them or not answered them, but have you got any questions that you want to ask me?
Yeah, we've kind of went into some of them, but Shit, now that you're asking me right off rip, I'm probably not.
Well,
gonna
we've
be
got
able to
one
think of
here if it saves us. Top 5 favorite monitors: small, medium, and large. So basically, what's your if you could own any 5? It was asked earlier, but it wasn't relevant in the sense of.
That's a good one. That's a good one to bring
So your
in
top
right
5
now.
monitors: no money and no space a problem. You can have any 5 monitors in the world. What 5 monitors in no particular order, unless you want to have like number 1 is blah blah blah, but no particular order. Top 5 monitors: money and space, not an object.
Okay, these aren't in order from my favorite to least favorite. This is just because I can't tell you which one's my favorite. Definitely yellow tree monitors, Unin tricolor monitors. Definitely want croc monitors. As far as smaller stuff, I would love to do Pilbara rock monitors, and shit, man, it's so hard to pick a fifth. There's so many.
Jobensis.
Yeah, I mean, that's already a dream monitor accomplished. So I don't know if I can add that in there, but yeah,
if it's in your top 5, then it's in your top 5.
Yeah, that's already a dream accomplished. But jobensis is always going to be in my top 5.
Mangroves wouldn't be in my top 5.
They're not in mine, unfortunately.
No, they're rubbish. So I would have, in no particular order, varanus spinulosus, the Solomon Island spiny neck monitor. I think they're incredible.
I love spinulosus. They're cool.
I would have varanus glebopalma, the black rock monitor. I have twilight monitor, the largest Audatria, or second largest Audatria, I forget. I'd have varanus giganteus, the parenti. I would have varanus baris, the lace monitor. And I would have 5th monitor, dream monitors.
So hard.
Varanus prasinus, the green tree monitor, which I already have. Whoop whoop. But yeah, that's my 5. There you go, guys. But yeah, anyway, if you can't think of any questions that you want to ask me, then it's no stress.
Yeah, I mean, the main ones I really was thinking like basis around were like how you notice your cycling, but obviously we went into that because we were talking about that earlier. But it's just that's the thing I have trouble with is just like actually knowing when it is. But I feel like I now have I had it set up. I just bought all the substrate and shit yesterday, which I was also saying before, but I need to get the substrate into the lay bin I have for her so I can stick it in the corner. But that is going to be a run on a thermostat, so it'll always be a controlled temperature and everything. And I feel like having that will really make it easier for me to monitor what she's doing cycle wise, because before it was full floor plan and she'd be digging 5 test holes and I'd never know what exactly was going on and everything. So
yeah, no, I wouldn't have a croc monitor. I think croc monitors are incredible, but they don't make my top 5. Yeah, I mean, for me, sounds like you know Blaze very well. So for me, Mango, like I say, it's 1 to 2 days. She is off. She sometimes will eat, sometimes won't, but she's off. She's just off. You can just tell that she's not her normal self. She's not as twitchy. She's not as energetic. She's a bit more lethargic. It's almost like, you know, when you feed them a really big meal and they're still themselves, but they're sluggish. A bit like, I just can't be bothered. That's a bit what it's like. Only for a day or 2. And then obviously after that, and there's a bit of swelling, sometimes, but not always. And I'm very fortunate that Mango is incredibly lean. So any body change, you can pick it up, but even then it's hard to see. So yeah, that's the start of vitellogenesis. So that's basically the yolk basically depositing into ready to be fertilized pretty much. So that after those couple of days is when then you'd introduce, and then they would breed for several days or however long, a week or so. And after about 10 days, so we're about day 12 now of cycle, she will ovulate, which is basically let me see if I can find it as I'm talking. So, oh, for God's sake, I need a new laptop because this one's so small. But she will ovulate. There's a video I took of her, and she is an absolute blimp. And it's the biggest I'd ever seen her. And like I say, it's because she had 7 eggs inside of her. But yeah, so they'll ovulate after about day 12, day 13, at least Mango will. And then after that, in the sense of breeding, it's too late because the eggs will then deposit into the ovaries to start working their way down, and they can't reabsorb after ovulating. So once they ovulate, you're getting eggs, whether you like it or not, or obviously they can become egg bound.
Yeah.
Right, here it is. Right, 2 seconds. I can't concentrate on multiple things at once.
You're good.
So let
dude.
me zoom into this. If it's going to play, there we go. It's not playing. Okay, there you go. Play. All right. Bear with me, guys. Incredibly professional stream from Pulse Monitors. Oh, God. Right. So this is my incredibly fat mangrove monitor. So we'll just leave this on loop for a second. Let me zoom in more on it. Because as you can tell, my internet is not.
Her whole body looks thick, though. Oh,
Yeah,
my God.
you see the belly hang? Yeah?
Yeah.
So this reel is playing very slow because my internet is terrible. But like you can see it here. Oh, for God's sake, man. Yeah, look how like plump she is there.
Yeah, full body swelling.
Yeah, so she's normally very, very lean, but you can see there she's distended as hell. And that's because she's cycling. That's a ovulation. So that is those eggs, those follicles going into the fallopian tube. So for her there at that point, there's no going back. I've got eggs coming whether I like it or not. All right, let me remove that. And then, yeah, so she'll ovulate on like day 12, day 13, 14. That's sort of, I've found it hard to track ovulation. That's the first ovulation I've seen. But that was on around day 12. So that's why I'm saying around day 12. And after that, she'll lay her eggs in about 9 days. And she'll go off food 2 days before laying. But then sometimes she doesn't go off food. So it's like, you can't take that as a guaranteed sign. And when she's ovulating again, she's very slow. She's very deliberate. I'm kind of worried about her being in this big enclosure because the basking spot's up high. So she'll have to bumble up to the top that big. So I might make a lower one, but we'll see. But yeah, so how to trigger it is hard because she cycles every 90 days. So it's not temperature, it's not humidity because she's laid eggs in the winter. She's laid eggs in the spring. She's laid eggs in the summer. She's laid eggs in the autumn. So I think it's just about being consistent with them and supporting them in. So as soon as I'm like, she's cycling, she's fed every day. She's fed like crawfish, shrimp, like shell-on prawns, chicks. She doesn't get bugs through her vitellogenesis. She just gets high calcium crustaceans and she gets chicks. And I have to be sure she's in ovulation. She's in vitellogenesis. Otherwise, I'll make her fat.
Yeah.
But 10 days of pounding her with food isn't the end of the world if I'm wrong, because then I just don't feed her for a couple of weeks. Just chuck her a couple of bugs, It's when people think they're cycling and feed them for 10 days heavy and they go, oh no, they're cycling now, but they're actually just really big because you fed them a lot. And then they do 10 days heavy, then they do 10 days
keep
heavy.
going and keep going.
Yeah. So it's hard to know, and it is subtle signs. But for me, if she's not trying to kill me, she's probably cycling. And it's hard for you because obviously your animal's semi-social. But if she probably doesn't want to come out and she's a bit more like and a bit more slow for just like a day, then that's probably the start of vitellogenesis. And then if the food drive kicks on, and it's hard because they have good food drives anyway.
Yeah.
And they're a bit more like, oh, come on, I need to feed. I've got eggs growing in me. I need to feed. And that's when you've got to feed them. And then obviously nesting is really important. I've used a nest box. Now I've submerged the nest box in this Viv. It's the exact same nest box because I didn't want to jinx it and get a new one because I've had 7 clutches in this nest box. So it's very old fashioned of me, but it's not broken, so I'm not fixing it.
Yeah.
So I've sunk this nest box in and I've put the heat mat on the outside of the nest box and the probe of the thermostat on the inside of the nest box, and I've set it to 88 degrees. She normally lays her eggs right around 85, 86. So I've set it to 88 degrees. And then also the heat mat is on the back of the nest box, and I've clumped up loads of soil there. So that heat mat will also heat her soil, one, to secrete the humidity back into the enclosure, and her pond is heated. So again, that's heated to, I don't know what it is for you Americans, but her pond is heated to 79 degrees. So that'll
Nice.
radiate heat into the enclosure. Her nest box will radiate heat into the enclosure, which then secretes the humidity up into the enclosure. Plus, it's given her the option to, if she's not happy with the nest box, she has got this clump of soil by the heat pad where she can dig. And obviously, so I've given her a bit more option in this enclosure. But her nest box is the exact same size as her pool. It's 3 foot long, 2 foot wide, and 2 foot tall. But again, she's only 26 inches. She's a small lizard. I would say she needed a bit more, but it's not. It was very much a thrown together one on her first cycle because I didn't realize she was cycling. And I was like, oh shit, I'm having eggs. Have a box, have some soil. And I've just never changed it because she lays in it. She goes in, she comes out in 12 hours. Like, I've never had an issue with it. But
yeah,
like
if it works.
This time around I've added more soil at the front of it. And I know you're not supposed to, but I used to heat it from underneath. And then people are like, oh, no. And I agree, no. But for the last 7 clutches, it's not done me wrong. This was to be the first time that I've heated it from the side. So we'll see if there's any difference. So if that answers your question.
No, yeah. I mean, it's mainly just me dialing in 100% of my enclosure and just, it's basically what we've been talking about this whole time. You've got to just know your animal and be able to pick up those tiny little differences of behavior and them changing, because we don't know what's going on in their body. That's the main reason why I want to build a massive enclosure, to put 2 of them together. I don't want to be responsible for when to do things. I don't want them to live out their life the way that they're meant to live out their life, and I want to observe it. I don't want to be the kingpin. Oh, I did it. No, let them do it. I just want to watch it and see what's going to work and how I can dial it in for them. So
the problem is with Indicus complex is they can hate each other.
Eat each other. Yeah, that's another reason why, like, people are always like, dude, you could have got a male a long time ago, or you could have got 2 adults. And I'm just like, I don't have the time, the means, or the know-how to bring in 2 adult wild-caught animals, somehow figure out how to get them tolerant of me in the process of me bringing them in and, quarantine and acclimating them and hitting them with some parasitic medications and all this crap. And then I'm supposed to put them in enclosure and then breed together. That just seems like a almost more impossible task than me just trying to breed them. So it's like you almost are left with the route of going the long route, buying your babies, raising them up so that they know you know them, they know their surroundings, they know that, like, all my monitors have a chance to see the other monitors, whether it's, they're in the room or they see me holding the other monitor. And there's multiple times where I'll be doing something with one monitor, put it up, and then look around. Every other monitor is looking at what the heck I was just doing with that lizard. So it's like they all see each other and they're aware of what's going on, which almost makes me hope that when I do go to pair, it won't be that initial of, oh my God, it's the first time I'm ever smelling this lizard or seeing it or going to that fight or flight. Because, like, I'll let the male run around and then I'll let Blaze run around right after, and she'll go hit every single track he just did, smell everything where he just went. So it's like they know each other's scents and everything at this point.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard one because, like, someone said to me before about, this wasn't Indicus, it was tree monitors, but they were like, they'd never kept a monitor before ever, and a pair of tree monitors came up for sale, and they're like, I'm gonna get it. And I was like, me being my open and honest self, I was like, you have no place buying a pair of tree monitors. And they were like, well, why not? I was like, you don't know your ass from your elbow. You will kill that female. I was like, I can't tell you what to do. Like, if you want to buy them, buy them. Like, it does not affect my life. But you will be sorry. Like, because this guy or girl had never kept lizards, really. And just to jump in, and don't get me wrong, a lot of it was, I'll be able to breed them and I'll be able to get all this money. And it was rather than, let's just say, green tree monitors. The green tree monitors are my dream species. This is a great opportunity to work with them, blah, blah, blah. Cool. But
yeah, that would be different.
Yeah, I'm going to get them. I'm going to breed them. I was like, you're not. Anyway, long story short, he got the pair. I think they're doing all right, but he's never bred them and he's had them for a couple of years. But if he got babies and then raised them up, the chances are they've probably been breeding by now because you would have learned so much more from your animals than just buying a pair of wild caught pair, and just assuming that A and B equals C when it really doesn't. Especially when you're not capable of dialing in humidity and capable of dialing in temperatures, because someone's like, how do I get 130-degree basking spot but then get a mid-70s ambient? You're like, raise the basking spot, create a platform, isolate the beams, blah 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 blah. But like, well, how do I do that? Then I'm happy to help and I will help you, but you had no place getting the lizard.
Yeah, if I'm having to give you a step-by-step floor plan for everything, like literally every move and everything you are gonna have to do, clearly you have not thought out this process anywhere near the amount that you've had to, and you don't even know how elaborate of an animal you are about to jump into, or you've already jumped into the animal and you don't even realize what you're dealing with. Because I can say that with as much confidence as I'm saying it right now, because I've been that person before. I've jumped into things that I was not ready for, aka the mangrove monitor I brought up earlier. I was not ready for that lizard. That lizard perished at my demise. And since that flip, I've said it before, that flipped a switch in my heart. I never want to see any animal die at my hand or because of my lack of knowledge. So for that to happen, you see what person I've turned into. You guys can look at my page. These lizards are my life. I live, eat, breathe nothing but reptiles. Like, to see something that you love or look up to or that you think is so awesome, and it to die at your lack of knowledge should not be a let me go get another one and try it again. It should be let me go learn everything I did wrong and try to justify my wrongdoing by what I just learned, not the other way around. And that's a major, major issue in this hobby that people need to realize.
Especially when it comes to throwaway animals like indicus. You can pick them up for $50.
It blows my mind that indicus are such a low grade animal thought of wise and so cheap. It blows my mind that I can get an animal of such a intelligence, nature, and such a level of beauty and size and all of this stuff for a couple $100. I can promise you, when these things are U.S. captive born and bred, you're not going to buy them from me for couple $100. I'm sorry.
This is the problem I have. Like, I won't sell a, like, if and when I produce mangroves, there's not really much of a market here anyway. So the chances are I probably won't produce many. I'll produce a couple for myself and then that'll be that. But people will be like, I've already had 4 or 5 people message me. They're like, oh, I'd love to have one of you. And at the moment it's a pipe dream. So I'm just like, yeah, cool. But like, when the day actually comes, like, best believe you're not just going to get an Aki from me. You're getting a mangrove. Like, I'm going to go through a fine tooth comb and it's going to be like 2 to 3 times the cost of an import.
Yeah.
And if you're so much as even question the price, you're not having it.
Exactly. That's how I feel. It's more of like the amount of work, time, and effort that's going to go into making this process happen. If you really want to be a part of that, you're not going to worry about what the price is, because you're going to realize what's gone into that animal to make that animal and all the value just in that. So when we do make this happen, people should realize that, and they shouldn't bat an eye at the price, because I promise you, you go do it yourself. You go spend the years, you go spend the time, you go spend the effort. And then when it finally happens and some Joe Schmo hits you up, hey, sell me one of your monitors. Oh, import's only this much. You should sell it to me for, $300. You're going to look at that person and laugh. You're going to block them. So for anyone that thinks that way about how I'm speaking about these things, that's just the name of the game. That's just the fact of the matter. They've only been bred in captivity one time. You can't expect this thing to be bred for the second time, and me put in the work to make it a social, workable animal by the time it gets to you, to expect it for a couple $100. Promise you it's not going to happen, and it won't even hurt my feelings when no one buys them, because I'm not producing them to sell. I'm, like you said, I'm not producing them to create a market. I want them for myself, and just to be able to tune in that species of monitor. There needs to be more of them. They don't need to all be ripped out of the wild.
Like, if this egg I have that is parva and it does hatch and little baby Damien the Antichrist hatches, I won't even be bothered about breeding. I've done it.
Yeah, you made a baby, man.
Yeah, that's it. I don't.
And it's not like you can say you just got it off the luck of the draw. You clearly know your animal cycles.
Yeah.
You know it down to the day. You know it down to the T. You've done the work. You've done the studies. You've learned what you needed to learn. So then you were then presented with a gift, you
Oh,
know?
100%. I like, but it's like I said, I had no mentor. Like I have mentors. Like I have older
That's why
people.
I always quotation it, dude.
Yeah.
I never had I just have people that I took information in off the sidelines.
Yeah. I had a couple of I have nowadays, not then, but I have nowadays a couple of people older than me, a couple of people younger than me, that help me out with stuff. But for the most part, with the work I've done with Mango, no one's helped me with that. And I'm not going to have anyone say that they have because they haven't. And I figured that shit out by myself. There's a couple of times I've had queries and I've had to ask a couple of people in regards to like health wise, but in the sense of breeding, well, I haven't bred her, but in the sense of cycling and reading her and that sort of stuff, like I've done that 100%
Yeah, that's all
myself. Yeah, so I'm not.
No one would be able to tell me or you anything about our animals because they aren't here watching what we're watching every day. So it's not like we could even go out and get a specific answer out of someone random because what are they going to give us back? Just some generic bullshit that we can look up online. That's another reason why it is also so hard to get information because unless you're talking to somebody that's experiencing the same stuff as you, you're just going to get back those generic answers that you can hopefully take a little bit of information from and run from it, or run with it, like you're saying. So
Yeah, it's a hard one as well because, like I say, we had, I think there was about 50, maybe 60. There could have been more. I don't know, but there was like between 60, let's just say between 60 and 80 mangroves that came into the country. I don't think it was that many. I'm going to stick with 50. There's 50 mangroves that came into the country in December. I snatched up 5 and then they were dispersed out to pet shops. Another guy I know got 4. There's only 3 now. And then the people just got them from pet shops. And I had a fair few people filtered to me because obviously I'm the mangrove guy of the UK.
yeah.
And for the most part, most of them took on what I was saying. One guy messaged me and he was like, "Hey man, my mangrove's not eating. Temperature, humidity, parameters, perfect. What's wrong?" And I was like, "Can you tell me your temperature, perfect, humidity, parameters?" Everything was wrong, just straight from Google. Like, it's not his fault, but
yeah,
but it's just a shoot. I was like, mate, I'll be completely honest with you. Your basking spot's 30 degrees too cold. Your humidity is 20% too low. Like your enclosures are a foot too small. Your substrate's 6 inches too shallow. Blah 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 blah. And then he was like, "Well, what do you recommend I do?" I was like, "Change everything." And I
change
even
it
went
all.
out and brought an Exoterra. I don't really like Exoterras. I know you're saying you have yours in an Exoterra, Amy. I'm sorry, but I don't like Exoterras for mangroves. But I went out and brought an Exoterra and brought all the lighting and brought everything for it so I could make a video on how to minimally set up a mangrove monitor in an Exoterra. And if you can't achieve that, you can't get one. And I must admit, my one is doing quite well in that Exoterra. I never see it because it's always underground. And is it doing better or worse than the one in the Viv? They're probably doing much the same. But I just don't like Exoterras in the sense of holding temperature because they obviously dispel, and I don't like them for holding
And the
humidity.
glass and everything.
So I prefer, I've got all like fiberboard on the side, so the whole walls are climbable. I've made usable space, but that's the reason I did it. And if I ever produce a mangrove or mangroves, if I produce a parfait, that animal will never be for sale. That animal will be mine forever.
No, there's no point. Yeah.
And if I breed them one day, so the mangroves over here currently were £300 in pet shops, and 6 or 7 have already been put up for resale. But let's just say they hold that value of around £300. Mine won't be any less than 600.
That's a low number in my mind.
But I'm not going to take the piss because I don't want to outprice good keepers.
Yeah,
I don't want. If, for example, there's a guy who messages me, I won't name his name, but he's a fucking solid keeper. And I would have given him one of my captive breds because I know he's a great keeper. So it's not about the money, but again, I'm not just going to give away something that's taken me 3 years and potentially more to achieve, like 3 years.
Exactly.
If you were paying for my time in the sense of my electrician wage, like you're talking a lot of money.
A lot more.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. But like you say, I'm not doing it for money. I do it because I love them. And if I was doing it for money, I would have just probably bred royals or ball pythons. But yeah, it's a hard one. And also, Amy, I would go for, I don't know where your comments gone, but I would go for PVC. Where's that? Are they going there? Building enclosure, 8 long, 4 deep, 6 high. Decide PVC. If you can afford PVC, go PVC.
Yeah, if you can afford it, that's definitely going to help you out a lot.
Is one monitor species smarter than another? Like big ones beat the small ones. So I will say, if you judge a goldfish on its ability to climb, it will spend its entire life thinking it's stupid. That was my Facebook bio from like 15 to 27.
They're all smart in their own ways for their own surrounding environments, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would say it wouldn't be like the big monitors are smarter than the small monitors. It would just be the more of the big monitors preying on the smaller monitors and the small monitors not being fast enough. But I would say that they're all intelligent in their own manner. It is all, their intelligence is all just based on their environments and their survival and their means of living. So
have you seen those water monitors that use their tail to catch fish?
Corral them in.
Yeah, that is mad.
Don't Mertens do that too?
Yeah, Mertens do that too.
Yeah, they'll like scare stuff out of underneath of rocks and stuff to bring it out of little crevices, which is that's just goes back to, we do not give these things anywhere near enough credit. They have evolved and figured out ways to do things that is way beyond our ability to give them credit for.
I forget what species it is, but there's a species of crocodile that a certain time of the year, there's a certain bird that picks a certain stick for its nest. And if these sticks fall into the water, the crocodiles put them on their nose.
Yep.
Sink. The birds try to get them and then they just go wham.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of that where they're like sitting there and there's like, say, swamp grass or swamp weed over top of the water. And you just see the croc's eyes and you see a stick laying across its nose and it's just sitting there waiting. It's like, this thing is millions of years deep in evolution. That thing is so ridiculously smart. It's figured that out.
It's learned to do that.
It's figured that
out. That's not an evolutionary trait. That's learned behavior.
No one told that crocodile to do that. It watched those birds for years after years, figured it out, what sticks it's using, exactly which ones to put on their nose or hide under, and whammo, they got meals.
There's I forget where it is. I think it was in Africa. But they're basically teaching crocodiles to be scared of bells because obviously people are dying from the crocodiles. So I watched this series or documentary on YouTube. And basically what they do is they capture loads of crocodiles, put them in like this farm, and they put like it's a bit inhumane, but obviously the people prioritize people. And these people are here to save the crocodiles. But anyway, this is what they do. I watched this documentary. So they put them in this pen and they put food, they suspend food. And then they basically put a bell on the food, and then they put an electric fence to the food. So for them to touch the food, it then electrocutes the crocodile, and the bell rings. So they associate the sound of the bell with pain, and then they release the crocodiles once they learn, so they don't go near the bell anymore. So then they ring a bell. If the crocodile backs away, they're like, okay, that one's learned. They release the crocodile, and then they do it to the bigger crocodiles, and the smaller crocodiles watch the bigger crocodiles swim away from this bell. So the native people carry cowbells and shake cowbells as they go to the river's edge. And the crocodiles are literally dispersing because they associate the bell with pain. And they say it takes on average about a week for a crocodile to learn that the bell means pain. And then that's it. They're back in the wild for the rest of their lives. And every time they hear a bell, they disappear, which is obviously inhumane, but also crazy.
I think it's pretty awesome, and that's so awesome to bring that up. I didn't know that they were doing that, but that gives me just like, that's so cool to me because that's a similar method to what Steve Irwin was trying to do with crocodiles way back in the early 2000s. Is he was trying to capture them in the giant water submerged tanks, and once they captured them, they would put them on land, terrorize the thing for all night or whatever, try to get it scared of all the noise, the flashing lights and all of that, and then release it in hopes that, you know, when it hears the boats or the flashing lights or the noise, it's going to run or be scared of that. So it's pretty freaking cool to see that, you know, 20 years later, they've taken that level of thinking and put it into a real experiment that's actually working, and it's really saving crocs and people. So that's just freaking cool to me, man. That's freaking awesome.
If I ever stumble upon it again, I'll send it to you. So it's on YouTube. I wouldn't know what to search. You know, when sometimes
I'll have to just look up varanus stuff. I go deep dive on YouTube all the time. So I'm sure I'll look that up. That's freaking cool to me, man.
Yeah, it was a cool watch for sure. We're encroaching 3 hours, believe it or not. Encroaching on 3 hours. So we're going to start to slowly wrap up. So if there's anything else you would like to ask me or any questions anybody has, please speak now or forever hold your peace. So if there's anything you would like to ask me, any other things you can think about, if not, it's no stresses either way.
Yeah, no, I wrote a couple little bullet points down while I was at work, and I totally didn't even bring my paper home with me. But I feel like
that's how my day's gone, to be fair.
I feel like we've hit a lot of the stuff that I was thinking about. So I feel like we've covered a lot of good topics and stuff. I mean, other than questions I can think of, I feel like I would just say things that maybe we could converse on later would be like, as you upgrade Toad in this new enclosure, maybe try out that bigger water tub so you can give me some feedback on what your experience is. And then I'm about to do a couple updates with, you know, adding the substrate back so we can compare those notes and just keep seeing what we're learning and stuff. So
yeah, for sure. I liked Owen's ideas of using the boat motor makes the crocs dip when the boat shows up. Yeah. So crocs are smart, man. People don't realize that crocs are smart. But yeah, no, for sure. We'll stay in touch. We've been speaking pretty much daily back and forth now. Anyway, and obviously I thank you so much for your time of coming on here and talking about lizards with me.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you sending the invite, man.
No, it's good. Like I say, after we because I stumbled upon your channel literally like a day or two before you messaged me, because long story short, there's a rumor that some Petrates might be coming into the UK, but if there are, no one buy them because they're mine.
Yeah, give him the call. He needs them.
To me. But yeah, so I was like YouTube Petrate monitor, and I hadn't Petrate monitored onto YouTube since before I got Toad. And then your videos popped up, and I hadn't seen your channel. How long have you been on YouTube for?
Dude, so I'm horrible at YouTube. One, because I do everything by myself, and I have awesome editing ideas in my head, but I can't do them on my phone and bring them to life.
So, I'm like, we're gonna have explosions, we're gonna have cutscenes, we're gonna have a little cut, and now it's just like,
it's so boring. So not only have I kind of just like killed my own motivation by not having videos up to my own expectations, but I started like a year ago, and it was just kind of me playing around with little things, and then it started to be like, I'll show a little bit of information here, and then experiences here and there, and it's kind of just like lately I haven't really had the time to put into the couple video ideas that I have backlogged to make. So I've kind of just been thinking lately, like, I just need to just vlog style this stuff, because I'm never going to actually have the time to sit down and make the videos the way I want them or how I want them. So the best way for me to get out the information that I'm already trying to share is just to go vlog style with this stuff, or just do snippets of what I'm already doing day to day, or just try to pop the camera out anytime I can, because I'm horrible at editing the stuff I got anyway, so it's not coming out.
That's all. Honestly, for YouTube itself, that's all I do. I edit in the sense of I put clips together, and that's it. But I think people like that kind of run and gun style, because your personality shines through, and you don't have to like hide behind the editing as such. Yeah, so I think because you got some good views on you. You got more or less more views than me on your videos. Your videos have done well.
There's a couple. There's a couple.
Not that it matters, but the Petrate ones, you've got like over 1,000 on both.
Yeah, there's a couple ones that hit like over 1,000 and a couple hundred, which I feel like it's all that consistency algorithm and everything too. I'm horrible at that. I'll like make a video and then I won't make another video for a month or two. So really getting hurt by that. But I feel like if I could just be more consistent, maybe throw that vlog style in there so there is no editing and people, like you said, I'm usually all my videos are me just like laughing at myself or doing stupid shit with my animals. So it's like, I feel like if anyone is watching it, they're just loving to crack up at me while I do stuff, which I'm 100% fine with. That's mainly the reason why I'm doing it, is to just make people laugh and watch me have fun with what I'm doing. But yeah, the main reason behind the Peach Toad videos, let me get back to what you actually asked me, was I couldn't find shit for Peach Toad videos. So I was like, anything I'm doing with my Peach Toads, I need to put out for people to see and witness, because it could be the little bit of information they need that I needed that I wasn't getting. So
that's why
that was the whole reason for that. Yeah.
I need to do a mangrove care guide. Basically, what I'm going to try and do is do a podcast, probably solo. I've reached out to a couple of people, but they haven't got back to me. And then people can just ask questions. But the problem is with it, you'll never cover everything. But like, if I can do something, I've heard someone commented on one of my videos the other day and was like, I've learned more from your channel in 2 weeks than I've learned from Google in 2 years. And I was like, you haven't, but thank you very much.
Right.
But it is flattering. And just quickly before I forget, I'm downsizing in the sense to focus on species that I'm really passionate about, including beach road monitors. So I might end up with the same amount of animals, but it'll be less time because I'm giving the same care rather than having to dial in different care for different species. But yeah, that's why I do the mangroves. My advice for YouTube is just try and cut out fluff, because it doesn't matter how good or how bad the video is or the message is or whatever, if you don't get good retention, YouTube doesn't promote it. So you have to keep people engaged. And sadly, everyone's a bloody free brain cell person nowadays because of TikTok. So you have to have like boom, boom. So I'm trying now. I've already got a couple of videos like pre-done, but in like 3 or 4 weeks, when I make a new video that's not sort of pre-done, I'm going to try and do, like, for example, let's just say I'm feeding a green tree monitor. Then rather than feeding a green tree monitor for like 10 minutes, I'm going to feed a green tree monitor for like a minute, then feed mango for like a minute. Because obviously I'll film the whole thing in one, but it's easy enough to put clip, because I do it all on my phone as well because my laptop's really old. So just to try and keep retention, because you can have the best message in the world, but if no one watches to hear it, then it's irrelevant. So you do sadly have to play the YouTube game.
Yeah, that's the thing I've noticed, is you got to make it really quick clips, and they all got to be intense. So you're watching. I don't know. I'm sure you know who Brian Barczyk is, but if you've watched how his YouTube videos have progressed over time, you've seen now that his videos are literally all it is a bunch of little snippets, and it's him speaking in the same sentence, but because they want to retain that algorithm, they just keep snipping the words in the sentence, and it's him talking, but it's them hitting those snippets. So it really is based on all of that quick retention TikTok mentality, like you're saying, just little blurts. So I need to do the same thing, is just be like, bow, 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 in your face real quick. Here's the info.
Yeah, I don't think I'll do it like every other word. I won't be like, so, guys, today I'm talking about mangroves. I'm not going to do that, but
that shit's way too much.
I might be like I say, instead of like a 5-minute clip of feeding mango, I might cut that 5-minute clip up and put different clips in it and just experiment with it. But I find myself on a podcast, I can be myself and just talk, and I don't really care if people like it or not, because it's my podcast. I do what the fuck I like. Yeah. But on a YouTube video, I feel like myself going, so yeah, but then on like a live, I'm like, yeah, blah 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 blah. So I need to cut out all the.
I'm the same way, dude. I'll literally try to take a YouTube video, do like 5 or 6 takes on a scene, and then won't even like it. Trash that whole scene completely. And it's like, throw me on a podcast or throw me on the story. And it's like, I can do a show you, tell you whatever you want. Try to make that in a YouTube video. Can't do it. So that just reinsures the vlog style just needs to be a thing that I do now.
That's all I am in mine. I just be myself. And I have had a few people message me saying they like the realism of it, because if I fuck up, I keep it in, or if I just am me, and I feel like people tune in for me. And I feel like, as much as I've got really cool monitor lizards, the monitor lizards don't. People show up for the monitor lizards, but they're also showing up for the host of the channel.
The entertainment value. Like That's the whole thing, is like you find some sort of entertainment value or some sort of value in someone or whatever they're preaching. Or that's the thing, is like preaching your passion is gonna bring your customer basis, because they're so intrigued with how you are so intrigued with whatever you're intrigued with. If that was such a long runaround.
Intrigued.
So intriguing.
But
yeah,
I think
you being so passionate about something is going to make other people be passionate about what you're passionate about.
Oh, for sure. People like it when, like, if you think about all the YouTubers you like, you probably feel, like you've just said, you probably feel some sort of connection with them, or there's some sort, whether it's you believe in their mission, whether it's you find them funny, whether it's you like their message, you resonate with something. So by just being yourself, and if you're lucky enough to be able to get notoriety from being yourself, then great. So that's all I do, is I would just say cut out the fluff and just be yourself. So be yourself and then just snip it a little bit, because otherwise I find myself, like, there's a video I did of that video actually of Mango eating her own eggs, did shit for me. Not that I care, I couldn't give a fuck, but did really, really terrible. But like, that's me giving information on cycling, that's me giving information on like egg length,
all
temperatures,
good stuff.
And because it's like all just long, people didn't watch it. And again, I couldn't care, because I watched that video back today because I was like, what temperature was her last clutch laid at? And then I looked back, and so I couldn't care about the YouTube. But then my videos where I'm like, whoa, feed lizard, whoa, feed the lizard, they get a lot more of attention. So
exactly,
that's the only advice I would give. Be yourself. Don't, because I filmed a reptile room, right? A reptile room tour. And I got halfway through it, and I just wanted to be long, live format. So I was pretending I'm live, and I'm talking about this, and I'm talking about that. I'm talking about this. This is before I went to the doctor's about ADHD. So I'm all happy and Larry like this. And I'm like, yeah, like talking, yeah, this is my... And then I just started crying. And Fee was like, what? And I was like, this is shit. Fuck all this. Fuck everything. Delete the video. And she was like, what? And I was like, no, fucking angry, but I'm angry because I'm crying and I'm annoyed. And that video never saw light of day. And then I was like, maybe I should go to the doctors.
I might need mental help, maybe just a little bit.
Something's wrong with me. But yeah, so my advice is, because I love the podcast, because like I said to you, I've really enjoyed your time. Hopefully you've enjoyed mine.
Yeah, man, this has been awesome.
And then if anyone else has enjoyed it, is a bonus. But whereas the YouTube video is a very lonely existence, just being like,
you have to be the entertainer and the audience in the moment. It seems like, it's like, it's hard to do all that and encapsulate what your message that you're trying to give in the video. So
yeah, it is hard to do. But like the couple of videos that I watched, like I say, on the Jobies, they were good. You were very similar style to myself, and that's why I liked your videos, because it was just a guy with lizards, and you're like, this is my peach throat, and I was like, this is a bit of me. To be fair, I didn't realize it was a girl. I thought it was a boy.
Well, in some of my videos, I mentioned her as a boy because this was like pre me finding out that she was a girl. So there might be a couple of videos where I mentioned her as a boy. So
Fee might have gone to bed now, but when we watched your video, because I watched YouTube on my TV, I don't really get a chance to watch it on my phone. So that's why I never really comment on people's videos, because it's on my TV. And Fee was like, is that same as Toad? I was like, yeah, don't worry though, because that's a boy. Toad won't get that big. Shit. But yeah, because that's a big female jobensis.
Yeah.
So
she's a beast, man.
Yeah, she's a sexy lizard for sure.
Yeah, I ain't complaining.
Right. Well, if you're familiar with the podcast, there's some wrap-up questions that tend to change because I ask them morbidly. So if there's nothing left for you to ask me, we can get into the wrap-up questions.
Yeah, man, let's do it. I'm sure you're ready to get to bed anyways. I know it's late on your end.
It's a lot, but I make for work a few hours as well, so I won't be going to bed until like 12 gone anyway. But so, one piece of advice that you would give someone starting the reptile hobby,
and they've never kept before.
Yeah, brand new 15-year-old kid has just gone to their first reptile show. Well, that's a bad example because they're going to buy an animal. They're at a reptile show. They see you. They're not there to buy anything. It's their first ever reptile show. They've just got into reptiles, and they say, "Oh, hey, Mr. Helder Scales. What's one piece of advice you would like to give me?"
You know, buddy, before you make your first purchase or before you let your mom or your dad or anyone else talk you into buying a ball python because it's easy, find the one species that you think is the most cool thing in the world, that you think is the sickest thing in the world, and that you probably are going to, don't think about it for one day and think it's the coolest thing in the world. Think about that thing for 3 months straight to where you can't get it out of your head. And when that happens, go get that species, and you're going to be so in love with it that you're going to put all your time and dedication into it. And if you get whatever someone else tells you to get, you're not going to do that, and you're not going to enjoy it. And you'll eventually get the species you want, and then you'll enjoy it. So do that from the get-go.
Facts, hard facts. I don't like the idea of beginner species. I've said it on here before. Beginner species just means that they're hardest to kill, which is good for a beginner, but not necessarily. If you want an Aki monitor and they sell you on a bearded dragon, you're going to get bored real quick.
Yep.
So Paul never sleeps. You're right. Paul never sleeps. Sadly for Paul, he goes to bed about 2-3 o'clock in the morning and then wakes up at 6.
That's the life, baby.
I don't find, if I didn't, I wouldn't have time to do all the shit that I do. So subscribe to the Patreon. And then the final question. This question's changed a few times because it was, before I actually ask it, it was, I even forget now. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given is what it was. And then I changed it to like one piece of advice you want to leave before you die. Then everyone's like, oh my God, it's so morbid. And then it sort of changed to like one piece of advice on your gravestone. And I was like, no, because that's going to be different. So I'm probably going to ask this question differently. But what's one piece of advice you would like to leave with the world? So just one piece of advice.
Not even reptile related, just in general.
Not reptile related at all. Just one piece of advice that you would like to leave to the world.
Remain a kid, chase your dreams.
Boom. Done. Mic drop, baby.
As soon as you stop chasing your dreams and you become old, you become stagnant. Life has no meaning. If you're a kid forever, you chase your dreams, you'll forever be living life in the awesome imaginary zone of awesomeness in your own world. Shit won't get dull.
Do you know what's crazy, right? So I have a child, and my child is 5, coming 6. His imagination is like next level, right? So we were at the skate park today playing, and we were playing this game, and he's creating this game of all these characters and all these different like trials and tribulations in this game. So, but when the one thing that sort of I've learned from becoming a dad is how much our imagination and our childhood disappears, because like as he got old enough to start talking and start creating this imaginary world that he lives in, I was like, when was the last time I did that? When was the last time? Because I remember as a kid, I was a fucking weird kid, and I'd create like games and stories and characters, and I loved drawing and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just a bloody depressed, nearly 30-year-old man who just talks on the internet about lizards. So like, that's quite nice that like you say, stay young, because life does get its filthy claws into you and really sucks the life out of you, and it's quite sad. So that's a nice one. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I've said it just in the couple of times that we've talked that I feel like we're really similar in our age, our mindset, stuff we've been through in life. So I feel like we're on the same echelon of thinking and level and everything. And I don't ever bring it up because I feel like it's a weakness point for me, but I've struggled with mental illness and depression since I was a young child. And the only way you're ever going to get through that and be able to cope with that is to somehow find your little bit of imagination and happiness to make your world around you happy, because that's really the only way you're going to get through it. And chasing your dreams is the only thing that's going to keep you motivated every day. And once you do accomplish those dreams, you're going to actually be internally happy, because you won't just be working a day-to-day job to meet a goal that somebody told you to meet. It's actually going to be a goal that you felt you were destined to reach. So that's why I say chase the dream.
It's powerful, man. Thank you for sharing. It's powerful. Like, I've recently there's a song by a guy in the UK called Lewis Dunsfeld, and it's called Hello Depression. And at the start of the song, it's basically like, my friends and family thought I was getting over it, and then just like a song, you rear your ugly head and you come back. And then at the end of the song, he says, depression doesn't have me, I have depression in the sense of like he's got control of it and he knows that this too shall pass and it comes back, but then it goes and eventually the rain stops and you can either choose to dance in the rain or wait it out. But for me, I'm a bit back in a slump of lately. The last 3 or 4 days, I've had a lot on my plate, and I've felt myself almost at the jaws of the beast. And I'm really trying not to get back in, but inevitably, I'm getting sucked in. And I like to do a lot of introspective stuff through spirituality and all that other hippy dippy shit that I'm into.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll come to this thing of serendipity. So serendipity is based, for those people that don't know, is basically the discovery of happiness in situations where you never expected it, or joy or happiness, whatever you want to say, but like little pockets of moments in time is serendipity and you don't expect them. So serendipity will save your life. If you can look into a situation and pick that little snippet of something that you didn't like, for example, today, Mango climbing vertically up that branch. I didn't know she was going to do it. That tiny little moment was enough to get me out of my head for 10 seconds to just reset the clock and find those little pockets of serendipity. And you probably will find them a lot more if you're chasing your dreams, for sure.
Exactly.
So what a beautiful way to end the podcast. all joking, laughing, lizards. And here we are. It always happens on my podcast. I just
hit him with the real shit at the end. You know what I'm
always
saying?
Happens, man. I'm like a magnet with this shit. So, but yeah, man, thanks so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed getting to know you over the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, however long it's not been. Time goes so fast. It's probably been, like you say, it's probably been about a month, but time, man. But no, it's like you say, I completely agree. We're definitely on a very similar trajectory, and we're like almost, it's kind of weird. The more I get into this reptile hobby, the more, not just like me, because obviously the people that are like me are going to be like you, and the people that are like you are going to be like me, and blah blah blah. But there are a lot of people that run very parallel lines, and it's kind of surreal when you actually step back and go, fucking hell, a different person, a different part of the world, doing the same things at the same time, and the same passions, the same interests. So,
like, I'm not an electrician like you, but I work on cars every day. You go spend 9-10 hours, however many hours a day working on electrician stuff, and you come home and do the same shit as me. You got a kid on top of it, so it's like, I understand every angle you're coming from, because we're doing, like you said, we're doing the same shit on a different place of the earth, man.
Yeah, we're all on the same. Every single person in the world is on the same journey. You know, we're all driving towards the inevitable end. So we're all doing the same thing, and you and I seem to be very much driving on the same path at the same speed, which is, like I say, I've enjoyed speaking to you, and your passion for peach throats is probably unparalleled when you see them on your videos. Just talking to you over Messenger and listening to you talk on here. Someone said in the chat earlier that I just need to clip our little Instagram conversation and just put it on YouTube as Peach Throat Care, and I'll get loads of views. So thanks for that. But yeah, like I say, it's been an incredible privilege for me to get to talk to you for the last 3 hours and like call you a friend now over the beauty of the internet. And I'm really looking forward to what you're going to achieve, because the way that your brain works is very similar to mine in the sense of, and I know this because of private messages, but I know that you're never just going to settle, and you're going to constantly be like, right, now I need to change this, now I need to change this. And I know for a fact, like I'm doing with Indicus, you'll crack jobensis for sure. And it won't just be a male and female together, oh fuck, I've got eggs. I know whether it be in 2 years, 10 years, like you'll get to the point where you're like, yeah, she's doing this and I'm going to get that. And on the 25th, she's going to do this. And then you'll come back on here and go, that fucking bitch cycled early and threw me right off.
Right. I appreciate all those kinds of words you just said, seriously. And I feel the same way, man. I feel honored to be here, honored to meet you over the internet. Hopefully one day I have plans to travel. I got a couple buddies that actually live relatively close to you somewhat. So hopefully that'll happen one day, and maybe we can all hang out and meet up, see what you got going on in person, man. It'd be freaking awesome.
Yeah, my plan is I want to try and get out to America. What we in now, 2023?
2023, yeah.
So I want to try and get out to America in 25. If YouTube takes off, which I don't know if it will or won't, I'm going to hopefully come to do like a little bit of a Florida, like check out a few places in Florida. Because I was in Florida as a kid. I went when I was like 15, like 12 and 15, but like just go to Disneyland with my family, and I haven't been to America at all since. But hopefully 2025, if the gods, powers of the universe willing, I'll be out. So maybe it will happen sooner than we think. Maybe.
That would be awesome, man. We'll put you on some herps. We'll go herp tripping, and then check out all the lizards, man.
Yeah, so I'm basically the Patreon members. Once I become a YouTube zillionaire, I'm going to take everyone to Australia on a massive herping trip.
Oh yeah, Australia is actually one of my top 3 places to go and visit, possibly live. So I'm always down for Australia.
So also, Gary, me and you are probably going to fall out as friends now because I'm about to tell you that I don't eat beef, so I don't eat steaks. That's a way to end the podcast, eh? But always fun show to all the puppers out there. Happy Father's Day, everyone! Thank you so much for tuning in with us, guys. And yeah, I don't eat fish and I don't eat beef because I'm an indie hipster. That was the same as I was thinking when I saw Blaze. Hang on, I can't read. I said, well, good, mine won't get that big because Blaze is a male. Yeah, Blaze is breaking hearts.
She broke my heart and the internet's heart. I'm sorry, guys. It's just a stigma. It's just a stigma.
I don't know why I'm weird. I mean, I know I'm weird, but if you think I'm weird just because I don't eat beef, you need to catch up, Bam. Honestly, I'm weird for many other reasons. So, yeah. Thanks, Skye, for the awesome podcast.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for all the love. I appreciate all you guys. Thank you for all your support.
No, that's fine. Everyone, Skye's links are in the description. Make sure you check them out. Please leave a like, comment on the video. Even if it's just a full stop, then it helps me out more than you could know. If you do want to consider joining the Patreon, you don't have to, but all tiers are the same rewards, and you get entrance into the Discord, and we just nerd out, and I post a lot of stuff on the Discord that Instagram don't see. But thank you very much, Ben. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you very much, Dan. We are going to end this, and I'm going to... So basically, I don't really care because we didn't say about this in the start. I'm going to end the broadcast, and then it'll say we're not live, and then you and I will just be in a room together. But everyone won't see. So once I end it. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in, Andrew. Appreciate you all. I love you all. I will see you all next Sunday. Will I reveal the guest, or do I have a guest next Sunday? Probably not. Let me see. We do have a guest. So next Sunday is Ross Lugan Reptiles, a fellow member of the Fellowship of the Varanus. So Jonas will be joining me. We'll be talking all things Orthatria. So nice. Yeah. But like I say, please everyone go and subscribe to Skye. He's a great guy. Links out in the description. Follow him on Instagram for the sexiest peach throats on the internet, outside of Toad, obviously.
Yeah, Toad's in that clan too.
Yeah, Paul's one of his gang. But all seriousness, I'm really annoyed. I mean, I need to end this podcast, but I'm really annoyed because you're like a high luminous yellowish one. I really wanted to get that one in the thumbnail, like just front and center, but I couldn't quite make it work. So I had to like mix it up. I was like, fuck, I want this peach throat because it looks so nice. I couldn't get like its tail. But yeah, everyone, if you want to see one of the sexiest peach throats, please go over to Hail the Scale. Is it Hail _the Scale, isn't it?
Yeah. Hail _ the Scales. Yep, with an S.
Link is in the description, but Hail _ the Scale Instagram for really, really, really fun stories and sexy jobensis. If you just want to see a guy that's just like in his reptile room. I mean, this is stereotypical, but I imagine you're a stereotypical Floridian and just like, this is my lizards. Like,
everyone that knows me that gets like my personal videos, it's me shirtless in swim trunks in my Crocs with a fucking monitor lizard running up my body, and they're like, "Where are your clothes? What are you doing?" And I'm just like, "We're from Florida up in here, dude. I'm trying to be America with my lizard. I don't care if it scratches me up. That's just Rambo shit. What now?"
Yeah, you just got the bandana on. You're like, "We're ready to go."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The link in the description works. Yeah, the link in the description works.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Everyone. Make sure you follow Paul. Paul's awesome. Support everything he does. I appreciate all you guys.
That's fine. Thank you for putting up with us, Skye. Chat was pretty well behaved today. Chat, I haven't really been paying attention to you guys, to be honest. I've just been enjoying the chat. Yes, thank you to Paul and Skye. Awesome podcast. Thank you for tuning in, our fellow peach throat keeper. But I am going to end this now. Like I say, please go and check out Skye. Please like the video. Please comment the video. Thank you all for tuning in. I love you all. I will see you next week.